Ding. Ha, good morning, America. Good morning, people of Facebook. Good morning, people of Twitch. Good morning, people of YouTube. My name is Neil Patterson. I'm a guy. I'm just a dude. And I have this podcast that I started in my van. And now I do it in the bunker. We call this the bunker. It's not a bunker. It's just a fucking one-bedroom apartment in Long Beach, California. And I'm here. And we got in the waiting room. We got Mr. Alexander James Webb, who is a dude that I met in 2014. He auditioned, I guess you could say, for my band Downtown Brown, and we become good friends, and we played hundreds of shows together. So it's one of those things where a total stranger replied to an ad on Facebook, I believe, on a bass players forum, and then all of a sudden we're driving around in a fucking van with Chuck Mosley, formerly of Faith No More, as his backing band. And you get to know someone pretty quick when you drive around in a van with them. You get to know what they're about. You get to know like where their morals are, what they stand for, and yeah, what's up? What's up? So anyway, we're rolling, and this is SUPcast, and we're gonna roll the credits, and I'm gonna hit this button right here. And I drank one of those things. I drank a thing called Focus Aid. It's got 100 milligrams of naturally occurring caffeine and alpha GPC. Let's fucking go. Yeah, so we're going to switch over to the thing. But first off, I'm going to do a thing.
Okay.
Oh, no, not yet. Durs. Give me a sec. Shout out real quick to the Wendigo Tea Company. The proprietor of the Wendigo Tea Company is Mr. Sky from the band Foxy Shazam. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitch, or you're watching on Facebook, there's a 15% off. Get some of this tea. This tea saved my life. I had a lot of bad mold in our old apartment. They moved us upstairs. We're still kind of sniffly, but we're doing all right. What's up? What's up? Okay, let's go over here to the Zoom, and let's say hi to Durs, a.k.a. Alexander James Webb, a.k.a. Jawz. And I think he's got some new names. Let's click over here. One sec. We are full screen. We're rolling. What's up, dude?
What's up?
Hi.
Ma.
What's up, Ma? Welcome to the podcast,
Ma?
the live podcast on the internet.
I'm fucking stoked to be here.
I'm stoked to have you, man. Last time I saw
long-time watcher, first-time caller.
Yeah, there you go. Last time I saw you, we were in a van together and with Psychostick, and we were doing those gigs in December. And little did we know, if that was December, that 2.5 months later, the entire country would essentially shut down. And
over.
But I mean, you knew even in December, like you had to have had your kind of finger on the COVID thing. Like you were hearing about it. I remember reading this thing. It was some internet article. It said, prepare to have your life affected by COVID-19. And that was just like the splash page. No. Prepare to have your life disrupted is what it said. And I was just like, whatever. I got tour dates in March, and I got Christmas with my family. It's like, worry about it when we get there. And then we got there, and I was on tour, and the gigs started canceling. They canceled Coachella. They canceled the fucking NBA.
Yeah, man. It was it didn't come out of nowhere. it kind of feels like it hit it hit like a ton of bricks, but man, that shit did not come out of nowhere. I was definitely paying attention to a lot of these reports that were coming in from China, because I try to keep up on the world's bullshit, and there was all these. I remember in early December, like late November, there's all these articles. There's all these articles about authoritarian crackdown possible in China because of this like mystery illness, and it was all sensationalized and kind of like painted as like this example for like, look how fucked up it is over there, and then boom, whole goddamn world. Yeah, it was kind of uncanny to see it, like how quickly it kind of bloomed out of the once it was recognized, you know.
Yeah.
Once it was classified, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah, and then there was just all these reports too. I remember being in March and February about Italy being in quarantine and seeing these videos of everyone, singing on their apartment balconies, but it hadn't hit us yet, you know.
Yeah.
And then
as far as we could tell.
And then yeah.
Yeah, it was Brittany works at the hospital, so we had kind of like a boots on the ground kind of perspective for at least when it hit Michigan.
Yeah.
And that was really wild because one day it was like, this is before it ever hit the news or anything. She's like, oh yeah, we got some of those cases in at the hospital of that like new illness that people are talking about on the news and shit. And, day 1, it was 2, day 2, it was 6, day 3, it was 20 something. And then it hit the news like day 2 or something like that. But they were already experiencing a lot of pressure. Turned their parking lot into a triage zone and all this stuff. It was wild, man. It was wild. So yeah, it's crazy to think, that really tripped me up because, when things really hit and, I lost my job at the club and music was like completely canceled, like tour dates are off, no possibility of return in the near future. Like that really hit me that the last like thing that I really did was out on the road with you and Psychostick.
Yeah.
And that was fucking crazy, man. Because that was like we were having so much fun, man. That was like that was kind of top of the world moment. Like it was a short little stint, but we had a blast and had a good time hanging out with good friends. And then like, it was almost like we didn't really know how good we had it.
Well, and that's the thing is,
but we talked about it, how good it was, right?
Right. And I remember in 2019, I was doing gigs with Reagan Youth and I was doing gigs with HR. And I just remember thinking I remember actually outwardly complaining about how much work it was doing all the traveling and getting on planes and learning lyrics. And it's just like, if I knew then how lucky I was to be doing the shit I was doing.
Just shut the fuck up, Neil.
Yeah. I mean, it really was very eye-opening because it's like, I mean, all that shit's gone. You know, like yeah. I was supposed to tour. We were supposed to tour with HR in July, and I was supposed to tour with Reagan Youth in June, and it just disappeared, and we don't know when it's coming back. And
yeah, it's like fingers crossed. We have no idea.
Yeah,
it really breaks my heart about the HR thing, man. I've been on a kick just listening to his albums lately, just like so I've got it, got it in my head.
Yeah. Every once in a while on stream, I'll like play along to it and just be like, I kind of get rusty on it because that's all I did in 2019 is just tour with HR pretty much, and then do some of the Reagan Youth stuff. But yeah, that shit is just, when's it coming back? I mean, I remember they started saying their concerts probably won't come back till 2021, but now I'm seeing. For insurance reasons, I'm seeing articles coming out saying it might not be till 2022.
Wow!
Like I read an article recently with some big fucking concert promoters just like it's like don't expect this shit to come back in 2021 either, and
because they can't guarantee these tickets and they have to insure the buildings against this new liability. Is that basically the reasoning?
I just read the headline. I didn't really read the article.
Yeah.
I just shared it without reading it. No, I didn't share it. I just was like, because when I read stuff like that these days, I'm just like, I'll just file that under. I'll pretend I didn't see that because it's too fucking depressing. But
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how I kind of treated reading that we were done until 2021. The first time I saw that shit, I was like, No. Like, it's got to be like fall. Like, we could get through this. Like, we'll hunker down. Like, nobody will talk to anybody for fucking like 4 or 5 months, and we'll be cool, and we can come back. You know, I was booking for the jazz club, and I still am getting people calling in like, hey, when is the tour still good in September? I'm like, dude, like, it's all off. Like, it's off. It's canceled. We don't know when it's coming back. I can't give you a date. I don't want to lie to you. I don't. Yeah. Stop making me lie. You know?
Stop making me lie.
I'm trying to like gas people up. Like, yeah, we're gonna be back. Like, I have no clue. There's no guarantees. There's no possible way to predict the future at this point, which is nerve-wracking, but like terribly nerve-wracking. But also, it's kind of in a really strange way, it's kind of liberating, because like what the fuck, like what the fuck's going to happen? I don't know. It's like kind of just up to what you want to make of it.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, I'd try to find the silver lining.
Well, because
it's fucked.
Yeah, it's totally fucked. But the silver lining for me, at least, is like, okay, this thing that I've depended on for years and years and years is being my bread and butter, and like this thing that I've found a way to monetize, like playing in a rock band and driving around to the point where I could kind of survive from it. That just completely went away. And what's nice is to fall back on something like doing dumb shit on the internet and finding a way to make that sort of be my job. And what's really nice is I'm like, okay, so all of that driving and all my back hurting and all those sleeping on floors and stuff, like I could just stay in one place and just play music on the internet. It's kind of
cool. I've really enjoyed watching you figure this shit out. It's been really wild, and I really commend you for it, because this shit is, I think it's really cool, and it's a fucking mystery to me. It's a total fucking mystery. Well, like all I really get is the live thing, and I have really struggled with the transition. You know, even losing, I lost so many students. Yeah. Because learning music in a virtual environment is super different. It's you know, you don't have that like tactile.
Did they not want to do it? Did they not? Some of the students, they didn't want to continue, or did they tried it and didn't like it?
A majority, like I would say, a majority just canceled off rip and was like, if I can't come in, it's like not worth doing. And wow. It was then a slow trickle in the first couple months. Right. And it's been it's kind of steadied out. Like I've got a nice little steady crew that are still into taking the virtual lessons, but it certainly was a weird fucking transition. It was like, yeah, it was having to learn what the fuck I do for a living all over again after like 10 years of just doing the damn thing, you know.
And you know, how do you like do finger placement? If you're teaching someone guitar or bass, you know, you're just like, okay, you know, look at the screen and this is where your finger goes. Like, cause
it's fucked. It's really hard.
Yeah. Cause I'm pretty sure if you were teaching someone at your actual studio, like, you know, hands on, you could just be like, take their finger. I've taught a few guitar lessons.
You point, you can like point to the fucking, you're like, put it right here. Like, and they're like, oh, just there. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And over virtual, it's completely different. It's like I can't even like point into the screen, you know. It's like fucking nonsense. Yeah, like it'd be like up and to the left, and then it's like the screen's mirrored, and I'm like, wait, the down and to the right. Fuck. Right. Yeah, it's nothing's real, man.
there is a screen mirroring thing with Zoom that if you don't click off, everything will be like horizontally flipped. Yeah, I learned that. I learned that the hard way, but I think I got it right now. Yeah, I got it right. Yeah, Zap is right here. Zappa's face.
Yeah. It's weird, man. Like I'll write notes and I like hold the notes up to the camera because that's the
it's all backwards and shit.
I feel so dumb, dude. Sometimes I'm sitting there, right? It's like 9 o'clock in the morning or fucking. It's early as fuck. on a Saturday and I'm like teaching some little kid and I'm holding up this fucking piece of paper that's, you know, I ain't got nothing on me, but I'm here. Can you read that? Can I read that? And like,
kinda actually,
I'm trying to like pan along so they can read shit. And then, you know, behind the piece of paper, I'm usually just sitting here like this. Just the piece of paper is in front, and I'm just, oh, Jesus Christ. But it kind of gives me that opportunity to be like, all right, the kids, they're doing this thing, and I can just be like, holy God,
yeah,
I'm tired, and this is so awkward.
But what's weird is the new normal, and because I was driving around Long Beach today, and we were going, like Allie and I were going to the grocery store, and just looking around, and inside of Trader Joe's and whatnot, and everyone's wearing masks. It's like required to wear a mask to go inside the grocery store, but inside pretty much any place in Southern California. And
yeah.
And what's weird is it just feels like normal now. Like seeing everyone with a mask and being fucking socially distanced from everyone and waiting in a line to go to a grocery store, all that shit. I'm just like, oh, we're doing this again. It's like we're doing this again. And you know, I remember this was real clunky the first time I did the podcast thing. It was clunky as fuck. And I just remember being all nervous and being like, oh, you know, and the whole streaming thing. But now I've done it so much, I'm just like, okay. I'm looking at my frame rate. I'm looking at my kilobytes per second. I got a new mixer. The mic is sounding good. Looking at my camera. I got you here.
We've adapted.
And you know what? What's weird is I've adapted to this so much that if life does go back to normal, I'm almost scared because I'm probably gonna fucking be like, you know, like.
I actually do. I 100% feel that because as much as I can like bitch and moan about how it is totally different and in some ways more difficult to teach virtually.
Yeah.
Fuck, I love teaching in my house. I love not having to leave. I love having, you know, my coffee and shit off to the side or whatever else I want off to the side. I love, you know, having my TV show, like watching Star Trek when the fucking student doesn't show up for 10, 15 minutes and they're late and I'm just, you know what I mean? Like there's like perks to this shit and I don't want to drive places. I hate driving places. It's a fucking hassle. I hate getting in my car and having to go fucking anywhere, honestly.
when the lockdown first happened, it was 3.5 weeks. I just let the van sit there. I didn't even start it, and the fucking battery died because I'm like, dude, I'm not going anywhere. I was terrified. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. And Allie has this little car. It's a little Mini Cooper, and it's good for LA driving. Even though if a truck hit us, we would die immediately because it's a little go-kart. But
you can get in between shit though.
But it got to the point where she got really pissed off. She's like, you have to start driving. I can't just drive everywhere. And so, yeah, I went to go start the van that day when, you know, after. Yeah, and it was, nothing. So that was that.
That's funny. Yeah, I don't think I left the house for 3 months or 3 months, 3 weeks or a month or so.
Yeah, but now I leave all the fucking time. Like, I just mask the fuck up.
Nothing's changed though. It's still just as fucking dangerous.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's fucked. But I mean, I don't know. It's I feel like as long as you're in a situation where most people are like, you know, they're taking steps to mitigate the risk, I think collective this is the lesson here, right? It's like the collective mindset versus the individual mindset. So you have people who are like, well, you know, I won't get sick, or I don't think I'll get sick, or I think this is bullshit, or I think it's not as bad as they say it is. And they're, you know, just walking around like, fuck it. But you know, it has nothing to do with what the fuck they're doing. It has to do with like developing a culture of safety where everybody's like, I don't know about me and I don't know about you. So we have to do this thing so that we can both be safe, and then maybe things won't suck ass.
A lot of them
so very long.
A lot of Americans aren't ready to do that shit.
No, they're sucking ass.
Yeah, they're just like, well, I don't give a shit about you. I give a shit about myself. And it's very telling, especially seeing the numbers spike the way they do, just how little, how very individualistic the United States are. Like a lot of us, you know, we're just literally like, well, my rights. But we'll get into that. First off, I want to go back all the way to 2014.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Okay. That's when you and I first met. So Ron's mom was sick, and I still wanted to tour my ass off. Like, I'm just like, all right, I got to make this band work no matter what. I still had these big fucking stars in my eyes. I still thought I could will success into existence. So I'm like, all right, we need to find a bass player. And then I remember putting something on Facebook, and I guess it got shared in some sort of like a bass forum, like a Detroit bass forum. And then
Ron shared it in Detroit Bass Players Facebook group.
Okay.
Which I've been like a religious member of. For as long as Facebook's been a thing, I think. Yeah. It's a dope group, man. Like we used to have these meetups at the Motown Museum and have a big ass picture with everybody.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
And you posted it, and at that time I had basically for where I was at. I don't know if we ever really talked about this shit. I had graduated like in 13 with my music degree, and I spent the entire year trying to get into orchestras, musical pit orchestras, like film, anything that I could get into classical music. Did not happen. I was really dejected. I was like, fuck, man. Like, I got this degree. Like, my professors thought, like, they're like, you're like, you got it. Like, they were like, get a performance degree.
You do got it.
Or else just get the fuck out so that you can get into the audition circuit and, like, get a job. And I was, like, all gung-ho and, like, amped up. Like, I got this shit. Didn't fucking happen. Right? Because I'm like, little ass me with a fucking bachelor's degree going against these people with, like, doctorates.
Yeah.
For basically, like, a minimum wage job. Which is
like music
Yeah.
performance and even music education. I remember, dude, like I come from a long line of educators. My mom taught at Wayne Westland Community Schools pretty much her whole adult life, and she was tenured and she worked for so long that she ended up making a pretty good living, and she retired having a good retirement and all. But when my sister first started out teaching, she was making like $30,000 a year, and
it's tough.
Yeah. So
it's tough. They don't pay them near enough.
No, and they got to babysit your shitty kids with like zero to no resources.
Yeah, we're building our future society at $30,000 a year. Like that's how much the future's worth is $30,000 a year.
Oof.
Yeah, it's fucked. Yeah.
Well,
but that's kind of where I was, and so I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm gonna go back to like what I know. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna get in a rock and roll group. I'm gonna fucking join as many bands as I can. And I'm just gonna fucking take every single gig possible, so that I don't have to work this shitty bar job that I had, which with a bunch of people that I loved. As a lot of bar jobs go. But the job sucked, right? The job sucked. So I was like, I had to get out of here, man, and then I hit Ron up and I was like, hey, man, that sounds really tough. I'm sorry you're going through this shit. Like, whatever you need, like, send me what I got to learn and I'll talk to. He's like, yeah, you got to talk to Neil. And then Mango, dude. Then we were in the fucking van drinking Mango.
Well, I remember. Okay, so my girlfriend at the time lived in Toledo, and I remember being in Toledo. And I would always do my band work because I was DIY to the core. I booked all of my own shows. I like fucking, I ran the online store. DIY to the core, dude. I fucking do everything for this band. And I remember you sent me. I don't know if you sent me an email, but yeah, you sent me an email. So I found you on Facebook. You didn't I found you, and I'm like, is this the guy? And it was just a bunch of pictures of you and Britt at your wedding. And you and you had like short hair, and you just looked so young. And
it was my Leave It to Beaver look, man. I was Leave It to Beaver that year,
dude. Man. And so you had your glasses and the short hair, and you were wearing a tuxedo. And I'm like, this guy plays bass. And I'm like,
hi, I can play bass in your band or something, I guess.
What's funny is. My first reaction was like, this guy doesn't rock, but just based on photos, just a first glance, and And come to find out that not only are you an amazing musician, but like that shit was all just a fucking cover for like you're a fucking nasty guy. Like you're an angry, outspoken, educated, pissed off guy in the streets, fucking
all true.
Talking shit to strangers on the internet, talking shit to people you know, losing family members on the internet, just going off. And it's like that's the Alex Webb, that's the Jawz that I came to know and love. But what's funny is just my first impression is like, who's this fucking nerd? I mean, you are a nerd.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd. We're all dorks. But
yeah, it was a picture. I had like short ass hair. I was like clean shaven in a tuxedo, like in front of the DIA, you know, the Detroit Institute of Arts. Like, yeah, it was a setup.
Yeah, come to find out, like you know, you live down the road and fucking did all types of bad things, and like, you know, you're an addict like me. You have all types of mental problems like me. It's like, you know, like it.
Yeah, I cleaned up the mess for like a moment, and it was the right moment.
So I don't know if you sent me an audition video. Did you?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I think it was Pills.
Yeah,
that was my favorite.
I remember when I was trying to get people to audition for the band, I would always send them to like the toughest song to figure out, because the thing about Ron slapping is it's like this alien shit. It's not necessarily like Flea, like fucking like traditional pop slap. You know, like
it was
funk,
not
bass,
trivial to figure it out.
Yeah, it's just this weird alien shit. So I'm like, all right, and I used to do that like kind of like a dick move. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna send them the fucking hardest bass line to figure out and see what they do. And Smeed, the Ohio dude with the mustache, you know Smeed, right?
Yep.
He sent me a really good audition video too. And then, yeah, next thing I know, like I came to Hamtramck and I was teaching you the songs in that little side room of your old place.
Holy shit, I totally forgot about that.
And I barely knew you, and it was just you and I like in that little room, because that before I just started sending people tracks to learn, I would always, you know, I would always just go to them. Like I did the same thing with Bobbins. When Bobbins joined the band, I just went to him in Lansing, and we got a storage unit, and I just sat there and fucking taught him the songs for like weeks. Like at least a couple weeks, where I would be there like 4 days a week, and then I'd go back, and then I'd come back, and it'd be another string of 4 days, and I'd sleep on his couch, and, you know,
just banging it up, smell up the place.
Yeah. There was this one time where I ate a bunch of cashews. There was a health food store, and at the time I was like eating tons of nuts, because I'm just like, all right, if I can just like eat nuts all the time, because
at the time.
Well, I'm not really on the nuts anymore. They're kind of expensive. And they're high. They're like calorically high. They do have you know, like healthy fats. Nuts are good for you, but you can only eat like a handful a day. And I was eating like 9, 12, 14 handfuls. And I remember
you were living on the shit,
dude. I remember I got real constipated, and. So this was before I even knew Bobbins, and I was teaching him the songs, and I was sleeping on his couch, and like while I was asleep, I was just emitting this noxious odor, and and that was like one of Bobbins' first impressions of me is his roommates being like, hey, that guy on the couch is just sleep farting, and it's terrible. And he's like, yeah,
it's nut farts. That's it's the nut farts, man. You gotta look out for that shit.
But you know, that was the beginning of a 5-year marriage with Bobbins. So, but yeah, so I taught you the shit, and then our first gigs together was the notorious Chuck Mosley run, the 5-day, was it 5 or 6 day Chuck Mosley run? We went down to Louisville, and we went to Memphis, and then we went up through Illinois. It was just a little Midwest thing, but kind of some of the South a little bit. But that shit was nuts, because I'd never met Chuck Mosley, and I had just like hung out with you and taught you the songs a little bit. And next thing I know, we're in a van. It's Bobbins, you, Chuck Mosley, and myself.
And we're just like, all right, let's do it.
Oh, that was that was fucking nuts.
Did we even have a rehearsal with Bobbins before that tour? Or did we pick him up and then go?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. Was it in that Buffalo house, my cousin's house, the creepy white house on the corner in the Hamtramck, like in the back ass corner of Hamtramck?
In the basement. We did rehearse there. And that was when I first met Andrew, your cousin.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
Yeah.
They called that place the Dark House because it was like there was a vibe, man. There was like some spirit shit going on there.
Some haunted ass shit.
It was a creepy place. It was a haunted ass place. Haunted ass, old ass Hamtramck house.
And I remember you had a Phase 90 pedal. And I remember that basement. The staircase was really brutal. Like some of the stairs were almost like falling in. So like carrying our gear down there. And then I remember looking at the ground and seeing your Phase 90 pedal. And I don't really remember much else than that. But I do remember there's a photo of all of us in my ex's driveway.
In Toledo. Yeah.
In Toledo. And it's Chuck Mosley and you're holding like, you have a little book with you. I forget what book you were reading at the time. Some sort of like, and I think, yeah. And it's Bobbins and myself.
The cover off. Yeah. I hadn't taken the nerd cover off. Right?
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah.
I was really into reading weird. I had all these. I remember it because I was reading this shit, and Chuck was like, he asked me about it. He's like, "What the fuck are you reading about?" It was I was reading all this Zen and Korean Buddhism shit, dharmas and koans and all these like poetry and weird shit. It just like helped me kind of fucking pass the time and calm me down and keep me kind of level-headed, which, as you know, is a struggle.
It is a struggle to keep you level-headed for the insanity with Chuck Mosley getting super fucked up at every gig, and then us like having to back him up, and then he would finish out the set solo with like no percussion, no anything, just him and an acoustic guitar. It was kind of rough, man, but
it was certainly an experience. I was like, damn, this is fucking crazy. This is very it was definitely the most different tour that I had ever done at that point. And I was like, if it's like this, if it's weird like this, I'm in.
What kind of stuff were you doing before that? You were like train hopping and shit, weren't you? Like tell me about that one tour where you did it all on an Amtrak or whatever. Did it? Or was it like a Greyhound tour? Tell me about that.
It was like, I'd say like 95% Amtrak and then a little bit of Greyhound and a little bit of driving. But it basically, the idea was I was in this bluegrass band with my cousin Andrew. He was the guitar player. I was playing upright bass. And we had this massive bluegrass band. We were all, good. Half of us were like old high school friends, and half of them had been together for like a really long time. And we just kind of put this like big string band together, and we did really well in Detroit and Michigan. We had all these, we did all these festival circuits. We did all we made a somewhat absurd amount of money doing farmers markets. Tight. That was like that's when we all quit our jobs because we were like, oh, dope, like we can pay the rent on this shit. This is crazy. And we did. So we put an album together, and the plan was to do a rail tour, and so we basically sold albums all summer long to pay for a whole like month long pass on Amtrak. It gives you 17 cities that you can go to, like max. So we maxed it out. We got all 17 cities mapped out.
That's crazy.
All DIY. This is like super DIY shit. Just like, just exactly how you've been doing DTV for so long. Like we were printing our own albums. We were making our own album covers. Like with, we'd make our own stamps and stamp the shit and all this stuff. And we booked everything ourselves, negotiated everything ourselves, planned for transport and shit. But the craziest fucking thing about it was the only transportation we had prepared for this entire fucking thing was from city to city. So when we got to, dude, yeah. So like when we get to fucking, So we get to like St. Louis and we're like, cool, like where's the venue? We're in St. Louis. And we're all broke as shit. Like we're not getting, this is before Uber. Like we're not getting a fucking taxi to go across town. We have nobody, like we don't know anybody. This is all our first tours. Like I'm fucking, I was 19. I was 19. And so we fucking walk. We walked from like fucking 15 miles from the Amtrak station to wherever the fucking venue was, and or whoever we were staying with. So we'd always have somebody who we were staying with. This is back, you could set up all this kind of shit with was the website. Wasn't Craigslist.
Book your own
but
fucking
we had
life.
to do that a couple times. What was that?
Book your own fucking life. Was that the website?
It was
MySpace.
We used that a couple times. It was like the precursor to Airbnb. It was like
Couchsurf.com.
Yeah, Couchsurf.
Was that it?
Couchsurf.com, Rideshare.com. We did all that kind of shit.
Okay.
And we got all the way across the country doing that. It was really fucking wild. I spent the night outside on Thanksgiving evening at an Amtrak station in San Antonio because the train didn't come because some freight derailed or some shit. It was all kinds of crazy shit, man. All kinds of crazy shit. But I took a bunch of mushrooms on the train from Atlanta to New York.
Oh yeah.
All right. Thanks for the sub.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a big mistake. I don't recommend psychedelics when you're trapped on a moving train.
No, that sounds terrifying. Like owning a van and making van payments and stuff, it can be daunting. It's a big investment, but it is really nice when you land in the city that you're playing. You can go wherever the fuck you want,
Yeah.
Like having that freedom. Like it would be really cool. You would save a lot of money doing the mass transit thing, doing the Amtrak thing. But like that's a part I didn't think about. Once you get into the fucking city, you gotta. Like, how do you get places? That's fucking crazy, man.
We straight up, I think St. Louis was my favorite walk. We had some like really shitty walks. Austin was terrible.
Oh man.
But St. Louis was my favorite one because we stayed, we had this couch surf person. She was this really like well-to-do, like suburban, like single, like no kids, kind of like super rich. Husband was like somewhere like off in and out. Weird apartment, tons of animals, parrots, ferrets, fucking a couple dogs, some cats, like weird ass place. Big fucking apartment, beautiful. Big sectional couch we all slept on in the basement. She was like a peach. And then she found out where the fuck we were going. And she was terrified for us because we had to walk
what
from
city?
The south side of St. Louis.
Oh, St. Louis.
To the north side. So we had to walk all the way through like downtown, the arch and everything up into the north side, which is like scary to this woman. So she would like literally try to talk us out of going to our gig. She's like, you can't go there. Like you can't walk through those neighborhoods. And I was like, I was already over it because I had hitchhiked through St. Louis like a couple years, like the year before or something.
Yeah.
And I had already walked this fucking route. And I was like, it's cool, man. Like, it's no big deal. Like, you just don't stop in front of the Salvation Army building because that's where shit, So we walked fucking 33 miles from the basic, like, this really nice area of St. Louis all the way through the whole downtown area, all the way up until
How many people
north side.
did this trek with you?
We were touring with 4 of us. So it was me, my cousin Andrew, this guy Dan, and Lisa, or not Lisa, Ashley.
And so with you walked 33 miles with like instruments and merch on you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Dude. Oh.
Yeah, it was a nightmare, man. It was a nightmare. It was like the most DIY shit like possible though. We didn't have a vehicle.
It sounds like some Lord of the Rings type shit. You're just like, well, I have the ring is your music, and you're like, we have to bring music to Mordor, and you're like fucking walking 33 miles through, you know, hellish cityscape in order to fucking play. That's crazy.
It was really fucking wild, dude. And we just stopped somewhere. If there was a crowd, we just stop and pull the instruments out and like make some money.
Well, yeah, that's the one cool thing about acoustic instruments and being in like a band like that.
Yeah.
Is you could literally fucking play anywhere. You don't need to be amplified.
Yeah. But that's like, you know, so that's like kind of what I was already doing like weird shit, even though the music was like, it was like Americana traditional, but we did like a lot of weird covers and shit. Our originals were pretty different. So I was like pretty into like, all right, let's do some weird shit on the road.
Yeah. Cause I remember
sleeping in other people's houses.
Yeah.
Familiar with this concept. Like, yeah, everything was like, I felt really, because I know you had this like air about you that you were like kind of checking in on me a lot, like hey, how you feeling, man? Like, all right, you doing okay? And I was like, just fine. I was like in my fucking element, you know. I was feeling good
because
Crumbie's house.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was weird. Cause previous to me meeting you, like my band had done some cool shit. Like we toured with Fishbone, and we toured with Polka Dot Cadaver, and we toured, you know, like we did shit that was less of a train wreck than the Chuck Mosley run. So my thought, like as we were experiencing that shit, is that like, oh, I hope he sticks around because like these gigs aren't that great. And but the thing is like those 5 or 6 days, like there's more memorable shit that happened in those 5 or 6 days than some fucking 3-4 week tours. Like, cause every single night was a different weird shit. Like we went to Louisville, and I think Tony was with us. Tony was with us. And we stayed with that girl, and all the shit that came out of Bobbins' mouth, and then there was the whole Crumby thing, which is something out of fucking outer space.
That was like, that's not, you couldn't write that in a book.
No, a lot of people like when you're around off-putting people or people that don't understand social cues or just the fact that he was so blunt about his choice of words, and even in that little interview segment that I put at the beginning of that video where he just straight up asked Chuck Mosley, he's like, that didn't work out too well for you, now did it? And it's just like,
we're all like,
it's like, oh dude, don't say that. But then Chuck lights up a cigarette, he's like, oh, it worked out pretty well. And it's just like, whoa.
It was brilliant, yeah.
And then we end up staying at his house, and there's like just all of the cigarettes were like put out on the carpet, and like that dude, we're listening to black metal, and that dude's playing Mortal Kombat with Chuck Mosley. I mean,
for like 6 hours.
Yeah, and then we stayed at Murph from Psycho Stick's place, and you know, you guys stayed up all night watching Star Trek. I mean, that's the one thing, you know, I miss playing live music on stage, but also like the camaraderie and the friendship, and you getting to know people, and then having these really weird experiences with complete strangers at times, where you're put in these really uncomfortable situations, but you're like, all right, well, we need a place to stay, so I guess we'll stay with this guy that's talking about how he can levitate his child with his mind. And
and we're like, this is gonna be interesting.
But that's the shit. That's the shit that Ron and I, when I talked to Ron on the phone, we still talk about, hey, remember the time we were watching riff tracks and there was like 9 of us on that guy's bed, and that weird naked guy kept trying to pee in a fucking... He kept trying to pee in this fucking jug, but he was like on too much methadone and like blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just like, that's the experience. Like, you know, you don't make a lot of money playing original music, but you get to have these fucking amazing adventures with weird people. It's nice.
There's no predicting it, and and the kind of the variety of experience that you could get in that situation where you are just totally at fucking mercy of the whatever crowd shows up, and then whoever's like the weird person in the room who's willing to put a bunch of strangers in their house, and you're like, I'm the weird stranger that you're gonna put in your house, weird stranger. It's always weird.
It's always weird.
It's always weird, but it's always like really
memorable.
I think it's memorable. Even the times where you know, you're like, dear God, like I just want to get the fuck out of here. Like, when can we leave? Like, I can't sleep. I'm on a couch like with my fists in my ears, like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is happening? But I'll never forget that shit ever. And it's those like unique experiences like are priceless. You know, that's the, you know, even though, you know, some of the shit gigs where, you know, we didn't make more than fucking $20 or $30 on the fucking door or some shit like this, and there's 10 people, 5 people, and then it's just like this fucking like oh man, I'm trying to remember this one gig. It was this tiny stage. We were stuck in the corner, and there was like 6 or 7 people, but they like went really hard about it. Like they were all about it. Like 5 people in this empty fucking bar, and we were crammed on this tiny stage, and all these other like bands played before us, and they were like it was a train wreck. And then everybody left, and then we played.
That sounds like.
But it was great.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
That's more nights of my life than I can even fucking count. Is that exact scenario, dude?
Yeah. It's like I'm not gonna clarify. This isn't clarifying anything.
Yeah, you're literally what you're describing could be like fucking half of my life, you know. But yeah, I mean, there was one time, the time we were with Harry Bob was playing bass, and we were in Iowa, and we stayed with this family, and they had just gone shopping at Walmart, and they all were complaining about being diabetic. Like the daughter and the dad and the mom were all like, you know, they're like, oh, we're diabetic, and they're pulling out these fucking 3-liter bottles of soda they got from Walmart whilst complaining about being diabetic. And then they were making us breakfast, and I said, like, I wasn't eating meat at the time, and it's just the look this lady gave me when I said I didn't want meat. She's like, what? As she's like drinking her 3-liter of soda, and like, yeah, dude, like, I mean, there's more, but hey, let's see. We've been going for 46 minutes. Oh
shit! Wow.
Yeah, hey, dude, this shit.
Well, we're catching up, man. I miss you, dude.
I miss you too.
Fuck.
I miss you too. It's weird. Yeah, because when the whole COVID thing happened, I'm like, oh, like how much? Like I had the podcast. The whole fucking business model of the podcast was like band guy in his band van interviewing interesting people inside the van, and then filming it and editing it and all that shit. So once we started doing the remote thing, I realized it's like, oh shit, I can talk to people from back home, and I could talk to people for long periods of time that I wouldn't necessarily have long conversations with, because everything these
You're not
days
gonna sit in the van that long.
Yeah, well, yeah, but everything these days is very succinct. Like, you know, we even abbreviate our text speech. Like everything is abbreviated, everything is quick. It's these little fucking synapses that just get sent here and there. And what's nice about this is like fuck, I can, like, I've had a 3-hour podcast before with Ron where we just sat and bullshitted. Yeah. You know, we could do that. It doesn't matter. There's no time limit on this. I got this donut seat that I'm sitting on. I just gotta, you know.
Oh, that's good.
In preparation for the pressure that I'm gonna be.
Yeah, it takes the pressure off
my
area.
My area.
So.
Yeah, getting old rules, but So yeah, and then so it all started with the weird Chuck Mosley experience, and after that, fuck, man, like how many tours did we did? You did fucking over 100 shows. We did a Psycho Stick run. We did a Dead Kennedys thing. We did a Fishbone thing. We drove around the country multiple times.
We did. I know we did well over 100 shows in 2015 alone.
Yeah.
Because that year was fucking crazy.
Oh yeah.
We were all over hell that year.
Yeah.
Back and forth. Did we do coast to coast twice in a year in 15, I think?
Oh, yeah, because we did one run with Psycho Stick, but we did a run where we started off with Fishbone on the East Coast, and then we ended in 4 weeks or 5 weeks. We did like 30-plus shows in 5 weeks, and we ended in Indiana somewhere. So we literally did a whole fucking circle around the country. We went out to California, and we did that weird festival that like not a lot of people went to, and then the next day we did the gig with the Dead Kennedys in San Diego, and
on the night of the lunar eclipse, that was a fucking awesome night. That was one of my favorite times ever. Was so fun. That was so fucking fun. They were they played fucking Nazi Punks Fuck Off.
Yeah.
And they were like, I mean, obviously they always do that shit, but they talked about us. And
they gave you a shout out.
Yeah, they gave us a shout out.
Because you were wearing the Fishbone Fuck Racism shirt. And DH Peligro gave you a shout out. I remember that.
Yeah.
I think we got
that was surreal, man. That was surreal.
What was surreal about that whole experience is I wouldn't be sitting here right now if it weren't for that tour, because we came out, and I remember when we did that festival, Vinny was like, you need to come out to fucking LA. And then the next day, Bobbins was like, why don't we move out here? And then we went to the Dead Kennedys hotel room like after the gig, and Landon, the guy who books and tour manages Dead Kennedys, was like, why don't you move out to LA? And then we had a day off the day after the Dead Kennedys, and we went to Ocean Beach. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember floating in the ocean. And
just being like, oh fuck.
I remember
I'm gonna move out here.
I remember well, that was before I really knew what it's like out here. You know,
right.
Because when you visit Southern California,
beautiful.
You're like, this place is perfect, but it's not necessarily the case. It's there are really cool. The weather's great, but it's kind of fucking gnarly in many ways.
Yeah,
but
it is. But when me and Britt did a super fast trip. Like it was a day in and then day out.
I remember seeing the photos.
Yeah. And I remember being like, I'm so close to Neil. But
it's all good. You were with your wife. You're doing things.
But going to Venice and all that shit, and she was like, oh man, she loved it. She was just enthralled. The weather was beautiful. She loved the architecture. She's like, this place is beautiful. I could get a job out here and it'd be dope. And I was like, okay. So like we walked to a Whataburger that was like way the fuck off the beach, right? Because she just like really wanted a Whataburger. Or
is it, you sure it's not In-N-Out?
Or it was In-N-Out.
They don't have Whataburgers out here.
Whataburger's Texas.
Yeah, it's Texas.
In-N-Out. She wanted In-N-Out, and so we walked so far off the beach. I don't know where the fuck we were. It was miles to get to this In-N-Out, and so we ate these burgers, and then we like went and sat on a curb and smoked a joint.
And you saw LA.
In LA, and we're sitting here like tucked between a Costco and like some other like industrial park and the In-N-Out. And she's looking at this house, and I'm like, so I look at her, I'm like, how much do you think this house is worth? And she, she pulled out like a Michigan number. She's like, oh, this house is probably like, I don't know, like 150 or like 200 grand or something like that.
No,
because it was like it was a little ass house. It was beat the fuck. It was in the service drive to the Costco is where the house was. So
$600,000,
$2 million.
Wow.
$2 million.
Were you in Santa Monica or Venice?
I think we were in Santa Monica by then. I don't know where we walked. I wasn't paying attention. We walked. I was following the GPS to the burger place. You know what I mean? I don't even remember where it was. She probably would remember where it was. But it was. I just remember being like, Jesus Christ, $2 million to live by Costco, man. To live like in the Costco parking lot. Holy fuck.
That's LA,
Blew
man.
Blew my mind.
Yeah, right now, like because Allie, we are like looking at some property prices and some rental prices out in Michigan, because after unemployment runs out, we don't know what the fuck we're going to do. If there's no gigs, if there's no auditions, if there's no comedy clubs, if there's no rock music, like fucking what are we doing out here? Because for the amount that we're paying to live where we're paying right now, we could get a fucking 2-bedroom house with a backyard in Michigan. You know? It just It is what it is. It's you pay to live out here, and
you're paying the access fee.
And it better be worth it, because that's the thing is if COVID took fucking all this shit away, then we're just paying a shitload of money to pretty much just be in nice weather that we don't even want to go outside and enjoy anyway, because there's people fucking running around the beach like coughing like
Not giving a fuck.
There's a lot of people that don't wear masks out here. A lot of people, in all the stores, they're pretty chill. No one really throws a fit. In Huntington Beach in Orange County, it's a little shittier.
Interesting. I wonder why.
Dude, yeah.
I can take a guess.
Did you see the video in Huntington Beach where there's the BLM kind of cavalcade and then there's a dude on the bike that says the N-word, and then the dude gets out and just fucking like knocks him out cold right there. That's Huntington Beach. That's Orange County.
That was in Huntington Beach?
Yep.
That was one of my favorite videos, dude. He gets
decimated.
The motherfucker loses the
ability to stand.
Legs.
Yeah.
He knocked him back into infancy. I was like, damn, man.
But that
that's
wow. Like the dudes from Fishbone, like I remember I was talking to Dirty Walt about something Orange County. He's like, oh, that's the orange curtain. He's like, I don't go over there.
Wow.
John Stewart used to live in Huntington Beach, and he said after Trump got elected that there was it was like night and day. The ignorant fucking shitheads had a voice after that. And he John Stewart's a big dude. Like he's he's like 215 plus pounds, like rock solid fucking guy. Like probably can bench press, 260, 280. Like he's a big dude. He's a big fucking
he's built.
And people in Huntington Beach were trying to he was just surfing or whatever, and they're trying to fucking fight him and shit just because he's black. It's like but it's it's not like that in LA County. It's way LA County is way too diverse. Like Allie and I, we went to the corner store.
They're there, but they can't mouth off like that.
No, you'll get fucking killed.
Yeah,
dude, you'll get fucking killed. We went to so we're in Long Beach, and we went to just the corner store when we first moved here, and it was crazy because the dude working behind the counter is he's like, oh, what are you doing out here? He just kind of small talk, and we're like, well, we live over there, and he's like, oh. He just had this puzzled look on his face. We're the only fucking white people that live around here. But I like that though.
It's I feel more comfortable in that situation. Personally.
Everyone's really chill. Everyone's really chill around here. We have this park right in front of our house, but you can't pull that Huntington Beach shit in our neighborhood in Long Beach, or in LA County. You can't pull that shit. You'll get fucking shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, fuck, man. It's kind of how it should be, I think. It's fuck all that shit. Fuck all that shit. Because that's exactly what happened. That's exactly it's because they feel big, man. It doesn't matter how built somebody is, how intimidating somebody is. When you feel like you have the weight of the president and the government behind you, they're saying, I can say the N-word to you. He's saying in not so many words that that this this superiority that I want to believe in is super real. And that's what's fucked so many communities up in the last 4 years. It's been really wild. In the first 2 months after his election, I lost a dozen students who were professionals living in the United States as working immigrants. They were like, fuck this shit. I'm going back to China, India, Pakistani. People went the fuck out of this country when this shit hit. And it was I think it took a while for the kind of everybody was like, this is fucked. But I think it really took, a lot of people more time to fully realize how this had immediately affected so many communities. Just to have that constant dog whistle racism bullshit flooding the airwaves starting in 2015, really. Because that's when he started saying all this shit. And as soon as he opened his mouth, he had a fucking monopoly on all the news and shit. And he still does. Here we are talking about it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing is he's a master manipulative marketer, self-marketer. It's insane.
It's demagoguery, right? it's like he controls the complete like narrative because everything is a reaction to whatever the fuck he's doing at that point.
Wasn't his platform in 2015 before he was even elected? Wasn't he calling Mexican Americans rapists and talking about the wall? Wasn't that part of his platform?
That was a bit. Yeah, that was like the foundation.
Oh Jesus!
Of all. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. So let's go back. Okay, so
yeah.
Innocent Times, 2014. You joined you joined Downtown Brown on tour. We play a whole bunch of fucking shows. You know, Barack Obama is president. Not to say that he's fucking innocent. His hands are bloody. Fucking Guantanamo Bay, drone strikes, yada yada. And you know, I learned a lot of this stuff from hanging out with you, and from my ex Dra, who was, you know, super outspoken in the streets, flying signs. That's where I learned about social justice. That's where I learned about the peaceful protest. That's where I learned about, you know, the call and response of a, you know, of what, you know, just like being, you know,
how to march and how to, you know, fucking fly signs. And she was really into, you know, flying signs and doing all that kind of stuff. I remember
in Toledo, Ohio.
And I remember having these long conversations about like, you know, like how the military was operating, like as if like nothing had changed from Obama to Bush or from a Bush to Obama and all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like watching Syria unfold, like that shit kind of happened in, you know, in those years. So it was much simpler times though, because everything was right. We had that perception of a wall, that you know we were all benefiting from. So you know, those are like over there problems. Like we had Occupy and all that kind of shit, but that was like basically.
I feel like Occupy in 2012 was like the warm up for what's happening now. You know,
it certainly was like an inflection point, right? Because I think at that point a lot of people started to really question like the systems of capital and the systems of how the systems of capital and banking and economics like interact and have influence over the state, because that's like we first saw Citizens United come through, and then we're like, oh, like money is speech now, like that's legalized bribery. And then we just like, you know, after Occupy kind of died down and or was infiltrated by a lot of government interests and lobbying interests and dismantled by the FBI and all this kind of shit, then it was like, all right, well, we lost that battle, and it's just been like a fucking, you know, it's everything's been accelerating for sure, like since about that time. Because I remember the like 2008 to 2010 2011 like period was like very much it was very much like just partisan bullshit, right? It was just like, oh, they want this policy and they don't want this policy, and they debated about it, and it didn't really take on this like class warfare character until the more recent years. I think the last 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah, and
I don't know, man. We're in interesting times, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I was fucking kind of had my head in the sand. I was just so like, I just was like, okay, I got my band and thing. That's all I fucking thought about. But really, like, being with her for the 4 years or whatever she and I were together, it was really eye opening to me, in so many ways. Just because it's like I didn't realize how fucked up everything was. Like, because it was because of my privileges, because I fucking grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, you know, in a predominantly white neighborhood where I was safe, and you know, we were sectioned off. I mean, because you've seen all those articles, and you know for a fact that like Detroit is fucking sectioned off. There's dividing lines. There's Mack Avenue. There's fucking 8 Mile. Like it's a city divided, and has been that way since before you and I were born, and to kind of have that lid blown off, and not only with this fucking segregation of the city, but things like transphobia, misogyny, like all of these marginalized communities, how fucking poorly they're treated just for being who they are and stuff like that. I really attribute like her influence to me kind of opening my eyes, and really 2012 is in 2013 where the year I kind of realized that everything, like, I was lied to my entire life. And I was just, you know, I'm a privileged white dude, you know? Even the music that I make is so heavily influenced by black culture. Like, when I was in high school, I worshiped black culture, worshiped Isaac Hayes, Prince, fucking bought a wah-wah pedal. But I wasn't thinking for 1 second, like, how convenient it was for me to just, like, decide that this is the thing I'm about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it just was a choice. And I had the freedom to do that. And it's like, it's just fucking wild to think that you could be in a position where you could just choose to do what you want. You could pretty much do whatever the fuck you want, just based on, like, fucking how you look, how you're shat out of the vagina. You know? I mean, where'd you grow up? You grew up in, like, Troy, didn't you?
Troy, yeah. I grew up in Troy.
So probably similar upbringing.
When I was 10, we moved to like the northwest corner of Troy, which is like where Troy and Auburn Hills and Pontiac all meet in that corner. So, like, it's a nice neighborhood. There's a fucking lake in my neighborhood that I grew up in. You know, typical kind of suburban upbringing. You know, very isolated upbringing because I was homeschooled, which is a fucking weird thing.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But I had I went to co-ops and I went to these, like, weird, like, basically they're like homeschooling clubs where you, like, hire a teacher to teach exactly what you want to be taught. So, like, no evolution, no science that, like, doubts the presence of God and all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's like catered, you know, indoctrination education. So I kind of had, like, a different perspective on things because of that, like, level of isolation. So I always kind of, like, had this suspicion that, like, shit, I'm being fucking lied to for sure, because there's all these things that, like, my friends are learning that I'm not allowed to learn. I have to learn through my friends. And I think that kind of, like, that's really what kind of set me on that, like, curious path where, like, I wanted to ride my bike to the bad side of town simply because people said it's the bad side of town. And I was like, these motherfuckers over here are always lying to me about what's bad. Like, they're always telling me, like, oh, don't talk to the gay man. He's bad. He's got an evil spirit. And then I talk to a gay man and he's a really fucking nice guy. And nothing seems to be wrong with this picture. And then it's just like a person to person, like, we're just humans. And then this seems really suspect now. So it kind of, like, drove me into this, like, mindset that wherever people, like, told me I should go, that's where I should go to figure out why the fuck they're lying to me about that shit.
Right.
And so I think that's kind of what initially, like, set me off in that direction. And then me and my cousin, we went on these mission trips with my parents' church that they'd send us off on, and they'd send us to Mexico and Brazil and shit and all this. And that's like,
wow, that's
actual colonial shit still happening.
Yeah.
Like, basically you're going to people who have, like, great needs, and then you're satisfying those needs for like food or for shelter or whatever they need for, like, a very short period of time that's completely dependent on, like, them sitting and listening to your, like, messaging. So living through that and, like, going to these going to these places where like, you see the real difference between, like, poverty in the United States versus poverty in a developing country, like that shit just exploded my fucking brain because I was like, what the fuck am I living through? Like, how the fuck is all of this just, like, I was born into this shit? Like, it's like, really, it's disturbing. It was really disturbing to me that there was that I could have lived that long in my life and just been completely, like, unaware of that, like, level of inequality, that level of disparity it even existed in the world. So just the whole concept of that was like so foreign to me because of that privilege growing up.
Yeah.
That it was like a shock to the system, right? It was like jumping in a fucking cold pool. You like can't breathe for a second, you know. It was jarring, and but that's like the fucked up like dichotomy. That's like the paradox, right? Is that was jarring because of my privilege. So it was, you know, I think it always takes some kind of moment where you like realize like, oh fuck, like it really is different for other people. Like that is such an important realization for anybody to have.
Yeah. My dad used to work for Ford Motor Company before he quit and then got fired. But we went down to the Renaissance Center, and you know, Windsor would have the Freedom, the big fucking fireworks show and all that. We got to watch that from the roof of the Renaissance Center. But I just remember being young and walking through Detroit and seeing homeless people for the first time, and I'm like, and my mom worked in a lower socioeconomic like school district, so she was always, you know, preaching to me, you know, just saying how good I had it, you know, but so yeah, it like, and when I first started going to shows in Detroit when I was like 15 years old, and that's when it really hit me. It's like okay, dude, I'm living in fucking Pleasantville, and I live in a town where once you turn 16, the kids get a fucking brand new Ford Mustang GT or whatever, and like I had to work at an ice cream store in order to get an 86 Chevy Celebrity that had like the fucking muffler hanging off. Like, the only reason we were in that town is my parents were in a mountain of fucking debt, and my mom being an educator, she's like, this has the best school district, one of the best school districts in the entire fucking state. So we're gonna live in this super high property tax fucking neighborhood, so my 3 kids could get a great education. But when you're immersed in that world, you don't realize like that it's not like that other places. And
it's the zip code that like really determines like that's and your mom was like, you know, a fucking genius to see that and be able and actually like make that sacrifice to see like, all right, we're gonna be in a mountain of debt, but like my kid's gonna have like a greater opportunity to education.
Get this, when my dad got fired from his cushy fucking like what's it called when you're like an executive or whatever, either way, my dad fucked up big time, and then he was all super depressed, and he's sitting in the basement smoking cigarettes playing Baseball Stars on NES. My mom went back to work, and she pretended she was an Orthodox Jew because the only teaching position she could get at the time was at a place called Yeshiva Daisha Torah in Southfield, where my mom pretended for however many years, it's probably like 2 or 3 years that she worked there, she pretended to be an Orthodox Jew just so she could fucking work so we could keep our house. You know?
That's wild.
She wore a shawl, and the kids are smart, you know? They would ask her questions.
Yeah.
They would like fucking grill her, and she had to pretend.
Yeah.
She had to pretend she was an Orthodox Jew. And
that's like, she should go into acting, like, because that's incredible.
Those are the lengths that my mother went through to keep like me like 3 fat little kids fucking fat and in nice schools, and the whole time, you know, we're just like, oh, this is like, I didn't think for one second, I'm just like, oh, I'm so fucking lucky. I'm just like, oh, I got good grades. I got a 3.7 GPA. I was National Honor Society. I was fucking All-State Honors Choir. I played on the football team. I was fucking poised to go to Michigan State University and get a degree in something, you know, but I don't know. I just wanted to be in a rock band. But
yeah, man.
But I didn't realize at the time that that woman, she just sacrificed so much just to make sure that we had good things. And man, my fucking just like wig blew the fuck back once I realized all the shit that she did. And that shit didn't happen until like pretty much after I got sober. I was like, you know, I spent most of my 20s just drinking and like trying to do the rock band thing, not thinking not opening my eyes and being like, dude, it's like your whole entire life you've been given so many opportunities and you just keep fucking up, you know?
Yeah. Definitely hugely relate. I mean, that's pretty much what happened to my 17, 18, 19 years were like, that was my heavy drinking and heroin years. You know, it was that because I was on my own and I was working a shit job and and people at my shit job did heroin. And then I was like, well, I'd go to the heroin house to get some fucking weed. And then maybe I'll try this shit. And you're just like in that fucking zone where you're like, I don't give a fuck about anything else that's going on. You're just like trying to fucking survive, or you're just trying to fucking subdue whatever you're feeling or whatever you're going through, whatever fucking disappointments you have or whatever struggle you're like fucking obsessed with. And it just becomes like that, like bubble, like bubble world. Like you're in your own literal world. And that just fills with shit because you're in a fucking bubble shitting because you're a person and people shit.
Yeah, my bubble was nuts. Like that
yeah.
Because it started off as just like drinking was just what I did to give me the confidence to go on stage and be the fucking performer I wanted to be. And then after the show, drinking is what I did in order to have the confidence to fucking like talk to the girls that I had a thing for. And it just got to the point where drinking wasn't even a social lubricant or a performance lubricant. It got just to the point where drinking was just this thing that I had to do before I did anything. And that I had to do
maintenance.
And talking about that bubble, like it got to the point where I literally couldn't see past all the shit because I was just fucking breathing and sucking it all up through my nasal cavities. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I was in a world of shit. I was really sick. I gained like 45 pounds. I was, I had super high blood pressure. It was terrible. But
yeah, that shit. It was fucked. I started having like seizures and ending up in the hospital and shit from the opposite, from low blood pressure and losing weight. You know what I mean?
You were skinnier than you are now when you were.
Much.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like meat eater.
That's
Alex,
you healthy.
You know what I mean? I'm fucking. I'm meat eater, Alex. Right now. I'm not. I only eat lettuce and I do heroin, Alex, anymore. So.
Oh gee. Okay, so
that was very, very. I was tiny. I was sickly, man. I was wasting a fucking way because I didn't have I didn't feel like I had anything to live for. You know, I had that kind of that real like lost kind of feeling all the time. Didn't really feel like I had anything I had to live for. And that just like that became my bubble. So it was just like a day-to-day like survival game. Like, how fucked up can I get today off the money that I made yesterday? And fucking repeat. As long as I can like maybe get a couple gigs here and there and like people won't kick me out of shows if I'm too fucked up. Like that was the whole game.
Yeah.
And it really I only started like questioning shit when I started getting kicked out of my shows and shit. And they were like, get the fuck out of here, Alex, you're fucked. I was like, wow, my friends won't let me in the punk rock shows because I'm too fucked up. I've crossed the line.
Yeah, it's a bad sign, but
yeah.
But
shit.
That,
like, I think having that like addict fucking experience, like it kind of like, I don't know, it like kind of humanizes everyone because you can like you've like filled your world with shit, so you could kind of look at anybody and be like, like see the person behind the fucking world of shit.
It's hard to judge anyone for their actions when you've literally shit the bed from drinking so much, or you know what I'm saying? Like, like I got so fucking blacked out that I lost control of my bowels. I didn't puke the bed. I shit the fucking bed, and it's like after you've been to that dark of a place, because my girlfriend at the time, she woke me up. She's like, you had an accident. I just remember sobbing, fucking in the shower, washing my own shit off of myself, and just being like, I'm an alcoholic. But did that stop me? That was 2000.
Definitely not.
Not
that time.
Dude, that was 04. I didn't quit drinking till 08. There was still 4 years of blacking out and pissing myself and not forgetting what I said, who I was with, how did I end up here, you know? But it just saved my life. I'm glad.
Yeah, and that's really, I think that's something we have in common, man. Is having that, like, having the privilege and the opportunity to just pour your fucking whole self into some music shit, like probably literally saved both of our lives, man. And I think, man, that's why I feel like really lucky for all the fucking time that we've actually got to be out on the road and playing all the shit shows and all the good shows.
Well, I feel
like,
I
mean,
it
puts that shit in perspective sometimes.
I feel like the worst versions of ourselves were already like in the past. I mean, because by the time, you know, it was 2014, by the time you and I were doing shows, like I was fucking 8 years on the wagon at that point, you know? Was I 8 years? No, dude, 6 years. 6 years. So, yeah, and you, I mean, fucking, what, you smoke weed? You drank a little bit here and there? I mean, maybe you had, like, a beer. You never were a big drinker, like, even recently when we do these gigs. So it's like we're just, like, super tame versions of the people we used to be. And
hold the reins.
Yeah, and that makes it more enjoyable. Like, I'm still fucking nuts. Like, I still am, like, super fucking anxious. I overthink everything. I fucking lose sleep. I sweat too much. I'm constantly think, like, my heart's beating too loud. Is my left arm tingling? Do I need to go to the hospital? Am I going to have a heart attack? Am I going to fucking drop dead? All deaths come in threes. I recently had 2 people in my life die. Like, am I the third? Like, I literally thought that 2 days ago. I'm telling Allie, I'm like, do I need to go to the fucking emergency room? Like, Neil, you don't need to go to the emergency room. This thing happens every week. Every week you're like, I have a panic attack. And this is me fucking doing yoga every day, eating a mostly plant-based diet, fucking drinking shitloads of water, taking care of myself, taking my vitamins, like getting ample sleep. This is me taking care of myself, and I'm still fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But
you're just fucking nuts.
But at least I'm not pouring booze all over it, because the thing about when I was drunk, I was fucking insane, loud, happy, but then at the same time, reckless, suicidal, making terrible decisions, doing fucking terribly impulsive things, getting behind the wheel of like large vehicles, just like, and just being like, fuck it, whipping my dick out, peeing in fucking weird places, just doing shit that would get me arrested or hurt someone. And yeah, so... And then
you go off the cliff, man. You go off the cliff.
And then once I would sober up, that's when the anxiety and the shame and the guilt and would all come like a fucking. It would hit me like a brick. And then, you know, my heart would start
You're
palpitating.
like, I gotta get rid of this.
Yeah, and then the only way to get rid of it, that's the addictive cycle, is to fucking drink more booze, because you shut it off, and then once it starts coming back, you start feeling that anxiety, and then you got to shut it off again, and yeah, now the only thing I'm really addicted to is caffeine, and even that is getting to the point where I wake up in the morning, I have to have 175 milligrams of caffeine, and then I go too fast and my heart palpitating and I'm working out and I'm sweating, and then I crash, and then I'm like, all right, well, I got to get back up again, and then I get back up again, and then it's getting to the point where I can't even get up remotely to where I could when I had a lower caffeine tolerance. So I'm just like,
yeah.
It got to the point in 2017 where I was like drinking 3 Monster Energy drinks a day. I was just loading my body up with all this artificial sweeteners and just shitloads of caffeine and guarana, fucking taurine, whatever else they put in that shit. It's like battery acid.
Drink shit. Fucking kidney stones.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kidney stones and shit. You gotta look out, man. You gotta look out.
Oh yeah, yeah, and yeah. So
But that's the thing, is like that addict mentality is like doesn't go away when you like figure out like one substance.
No,
that's like the fuckery about it.
You
right?
find different things to replace it with.
Yeah, endlessly.
So this is what happened to me when I got off the booze in 08. I started being like a serial monogamous, where I was going from relationship to relationship to relationship, and the only way I could get the validity of the validation that I was looking for, which essentially was the hole left in my soul by my father that never loved me or never like made me feel loved. So I would always seek that validation from, whether it was like me getting on stage and playing the guitar and being like, if people give me validation, I feel good about myself. If a pretty girl like wants to hang out with me and date me, that makes me feel good about myself. But if they don't give me enough, if the crowd doesn't give me enough, and if they're not around to give me that validation,
it's gone.
I'm lost. And that was what I realized after my dad died. It was 2017. It was like a year after my dad died. I read this book called Addicted to Love, and it literally explains me to a T, because once I got rid of the fucking booze, and once I got rid of those other like physical things I was addicted to, I became addicted to feeling validated by someone else telling me they liked me, or they loved me, and that got me into a lot of trouble. And this because you've been on tour with me. I got in these relationships where I literally set all self-respect aside just so I could continue to get that validation from whomever it was I was dating at the time. Like I literally was just addicted to being with somebody. And if I didn't have that validation from another human being, I was like, oh, I'm worthless. They're like, it took me years, man, to actually like be like, you're okay, even if there isn't a pretty girl telling you you're cool, and that's fucked up. But yeah, it's just just the perpetual addict thing, and it just fucking pivots. It's like I'm still an addict. I'm just finding different things to be addicted to.
Yeah, it's like it's that behavior set is like hardwired. It just has to like find an outlet. Because it's that hole like where you're not sure like if it's fucking worth it. You know what I mean? It's that like, am I it was everybody for me, it's like, was everybody right, and I'm like a failure and like a demon possessed heathenist fucking traitor to the cross, or
do you still have those thoughts,
my heritage, or anything shit like that? Like it's not so much that it's that thought, but it's that like complex of thoughts, right?
Yeah.
That measure of morality and that like measure of like use is always kind of like, I'm always like, who am I useful to? Like, who am I serving? What moral purpose does my life serve?
Yeah.
And like, I think that does help me. And I think it makes me, it's part of who I am. But at the same time, like I recognize that like I'm kind of driven by these thoughts because of the fact that like that's what positive attention was dependent on during my childhood, was like acquiescence to these like moral guidelines and like sense of like mystical purpose and these kinds of like really weird concepts to like indoctrinate a kid with, you know what I mean?
So you were rewarded when you fell in line with that crazy shit. Yeah. And if it wasn't, it was because I was like I was trying to like not, be good. It was good. It was like good and bad, right? Right.
So So I think that shit is like real fucking. It's real deep in there, right? And it doesn't matter. That's the kind of thing that's like fucked me up lately, is that I keep having these like realizations that like, oh shit, like I thought I had all that shit figured out, and I thought I had how that like affects me and my thought process is totally like unraveled, right? And then there's like some other kink in the fucking knot in the fucking line. There's another knot that I have to fucking figure out in order to understand myself. And that's like, I think the biggest struggle of being an addict is fucking understanding what the fuck is happening to you.
Yeah.
That's driving you towards these like self-destructive behaviors.
Thank you for the dono. It actually took my fucking dad dying for it to actually click with me. Like that was the root of it all. Was I grew up as just a little fucking chubby weird kid that liked to doodle drawings, and I liked to read comic books, and I sat alone by myself in my room reading fucking like Anne Rice novels and Stephen King novels, and I was obsessed with Batman, and meanwhile my brother like played soccer, and my brother was fucking athletic, and my brother so my dad just pretty much fucking ignored me and picked on me because I was more effeminate, I was more I was just nerdier, and I remember, and so ultimately, like through therapy, what I realized and what it all came down to is everything that I had done up to that point, and so much of the behavior and the self-destruction was all just me trying to fucking fill a hole that was left there by just me wanting to be validated by my father. The only time, and I've told people this all the time, the only time he ever took interest in something I was doing was when I played on the high school football team. And this is the fucking weirdest shit because we would do these drills. I was a lineman, and I was starting offensive guard for our football team. We weren't that good, but I worked really hard to get there. Like, there was other guys vying for the spot. I lifted shitloads of weights. I fucking did all sorts of extracurricular training. Like, I busted my fucking ass. And subconsciously, I just did that to try to prove that I was a fucking man to my father. And that's fucked up to begin with. But so I go. I proved to myself that I'm a man. And even after I got that starting spot on the football team, he took every chance that he could to fucking tell me that we weren't good enough, that I wasn't aggressive enough, I wasn't fast enough. And I remember we had this home game, and we were doing these drills to warm up before the football game. And my dad, out of all the other parents that just stood in the fucking bleachers, he walked onto the fucking field before the game as we were doing our drills, and he sat there with his fucking arms and just watched us. He just like ominously just like watching us do these drills. And I just remember feeling his presence. And it was so fucking weird. He was the only dad in the stands when my brother would play indoor soccer that would straight up be fucking screaming at fucking my brother in front of all the other parents to the point where they didn't want him to be around because he was like this super fucking aggro, angry, fucking screaming dad. And then my brother was a little bit more defiant than I was. He would scream "fuck you" back, like while the soccer game was going on. So get this, like there's an indoor soccer game going on. There's a fucking weird dad screaming at a weird kid, and they're screaming at each other. And meanwhile,
he's like, "Fuck you, dad!
Fuck you, dad!" And he's just And meanwhile, I'm like playing Ninja Turtles the arcade game and just not paying attention to any of this shit's happening. Like my dad is literally making a scene at the fucking indoor soccer space at Total Soccer. Do you remember Total Soccer?
Oh yeah,
the indoor soccer place.
I played in Total Soccer.
Fucking Total Soccer. So I'm sitting there playing TMNT, the arcade game, the 4-player fucking arcade thing, and meanwhile, like I'm just completely oblivious to the fact that my dad and my brother are having a fucking back and forth shouting match every single time we went there, and I was like, this is normal. My entire childhood, my dad slept on the couch. I was like, this is normal, but then I would go sleep over at other kids' places, and I'm like, oh, your parents sleep in the same bed? It was like, I'm like, wow, that's
weird.
That's fucking weird. My dad sleeps on the couch. Oh, your parents talk to each other? That's weird. My fucking dad sits on the recliner, doesn't say anything to any of us. Unless we're doing something he disapproves of it, and then he'll make sure he lets us know.
Yeah.
So that was my childhood. But yeah. But that's where it starts to make so much sense. So when he died in 2016, it was just like, I went from one fucking terrible relationship, and because of my addictive tendencies, I'm just like, all right, I need to get in another relationship immediately. I don't even remember what my thought pattern was, but I was just like, okay, I was like, all right, who wants to join this fucking circus?
Yeah.
And
it's like a dependency kind of thing, right? You're just like, you can't function without that person to like validate what you're doing.
If you can't validate yourself, you'll always be searching for someone or something to validate you. And so I went, my dad died. I went right from like one relationship ending. And then I found, poor fucking young borderline personality disorder girl, thought I was cool for a second. She's like, I'll move out. For a second. Yeah, for a second. I'll move out to California with you. I'm like, okay, this sounds great. What could go wrong? And and then it was, I was fucked up, dude. I should have just been in therapy and I should have just been taking care of myself and figuring out who I was. But instead I it was two fucking mentally ill people trying to fucking make something work in a, in a place where the cost of living is like through the fucking roof, and we both didn't have real jobs. We thought we could. It was terrible, but yeah, I don't know where I'm going with all this. I'm kind of ranting at this point.
We're ranting a little bit, but it's. I think it's. I don't know. This shit is kind of important though, because it's like, I don't know. People don't fucking talk about like that. It's hard to talk about this kind of shit. It's hard to talk about like realizing that you don't even fucking know yourself, that you have to spend time to like get to know your own, like who the fuck you actually are, like who, like why you think the way you do, why you act the way you do, what are these, like what's actually fucking happening. When it's so much easier to just fucking have things to do, or have people to date, or have drinks to drink, it's all these, it's all these external things that we kind of pour ourselves into to avoid having that like shitty introspection, that shitty like, all right, I got to figure out exactly what kind of piece of shit I am. It can't be a mystery anymore, I can't just let this shit keep sliding downhill.
Well,
at a certain point,
what's crazy, and you've played on stage with me 100+ times, is all of like listening back to old concerts and hearing the rants. And so much of my rants on stage, they all point to, here's a fucking sad little boy that just wanted his daddy to love him. That's like it. That's all I hear. I mean, some of it's pretty. It's somewhat on point still, but like when I listen to me shit talk my dad on stage, I'm just like, oof. I'm like, dude, like I get it now, and it's sad to listen to, because instead of me just like being like, I wish my dad loved me, I'm just like, like just like it's all this like fucking this fucking anger,
displaced anger, yeah.
And just like at whoever will listen, it's like, it's like, so instead of going to therapy, I just drove around in a van with my friends, plugged in a guitar, and literally just fucking spat on people and screamed about how much I hate my dad. It's like, that's healthy. Yo.
Yeah. And then I was like, dude, I fucking do the same thing. Let's go.
Let's party.
Let's party, dude. Let's fucking sleep on couches and eat racist biscuits.
Were you there for that? Yeah, because okay. So when you travel in a band, they say, "Oh, Southern hospitality this." So yeah, Southern hospitality. If you're fucking white, do you think that if we were in Tennessee that night and like Phil was with us, that we would have got the same Southern hospitality? No.
Nope.
And that's the thing too, like back to what you were saying about you end up in these weird situations with these weird people. This fucking woman cooks us the most amazing Southern breakfast, fucking sausage and biscuits and gravy, and it's blah, and then what? She just started spouting all this fucking rhetoric. This like,
yeah, she was like reading off the fucking Klan pamphlet.
Were you?
I was like, holy God!
Did you witness that?
Yeah. We were all in the fucking kitchen for it. We were sitting there, and I think Bobbins was taking a shower, and he came out, and we were all just like, we should go. We're gonna go. Like fucking, because you're in somebody's house in the middle of wherever the fuck you are. Like,
we didn't know where we were. I knew.
Yeah, dude.
We're in Tennessee.
Oh my fucking God. Yeah, dude. And there's, that was like, I would say the interesting thing was that happened less often than I would think. How much time we spent in the South, but it certainly fucking happened often enough to be a real fucking issue. That shit happened in Norman, Oklahoma. That shit really fucked me up, man. That I couldn't sleep over that shit. They were having I think everybody else was asleep. We were somewhere in Norman, and someone. It wasn't the people that we were staying with, but they had somebody over, and they were like trying to kick her out, and it was like there was fights happening and shit over this girl just going off and off and off about all this, all this racist shit against Jews, and I'm just sitting there with my fucking fists in my ears trying to fucking like not start a fight with people where I don't know where I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That shit just like it really, even though like I've had lots of experiences with dealing with white people who get too fucking comfortable, when you're like in someone's home and they're a stranger and they start going off like that shit is actually pretty fucking frightening, because you don't know how they're gonna react if you
call them out,
Yeah, if you're like, hey, fuck you, and they're like, oh, cool, well, you're in my house already, let me grab my gun or some shit, because people like that have fucking guns and shit for sure. Like, that shit was really fucking, that was like, those were some of the things where it was just like, all right, we're in the van now, and I'm gonna try to fucking forget about that, but you can't forget about that kind of shit. I don't know. I can't, at least. That shit is, and I think seeing that, and then like seeing the the results of the election, just making that like they're that comfortable as they were in their homes.
They're in public now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like I can't tell you how many times we played in Norman, but everyone, all of my friends, like Tucker, the guy's house whose house we stayed at, like. He's friends with a lot of like Native American folk.
Oh, they were fighting over it. They were fighting. Like I did, like you know what
okay.
I mean? But yeah.
Okay, so
but it was just the things that this woman was saying was fucked.
Yeah.
It was super fucked. It was fucked up against Native Americans, and it was fucked up against Jewish people, and it was she was saying things about blacks. It was fucked, and I was just like. And I do remember that people were fighting, and then they like made her left, and she came back in and said some shit, and they made her leave again.
Oh wow!
And I was like, Jesus Christ, Norman, Oklahoma is a shit show.
Yeah, and that's like the college town outside of Oklahoma City that's supposedly like left leaning. Everyone we knew was just a bunch of crust punks there, Like
everybody at the show seemed really fucking cool.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But that's the microcosm of culture, right? You have a cool culture, you have a punk culture that's like not cool with Nazis. You probably won't have Nazis at your punk show.
Yeah.
Then you leave the punk show, you're not, you're
not at the punk show anymore. Yeah, you're in Norman, Oklahoma. You ain't at the punk show anymore. You're in Norman. Well,
you're in Norman right now. You're not in Kansas anymore. This is Oklahoma.
Yeah, you're not in Kansas. You're in Oklahoma. So 2016 happened. Yeah, we're addicts. Yeah, we're weird. We have mental problems. We're in a band. We're figuring it out. Kind of late to the game and figuring ourselves out, but we're trying really hard to be decent people, right? Right?
It's yeah, man. It's a daily struggle.
But then flash forward to COVID happens 2020. March 15th was my last gig. I was with Phil and Jack, and we were in California. They shut down the fucking NBA. They shut down Coachella, and I remember
was it a Friday or a Saturday?
It was a Sunday when they shut everything down.
Oh shit! Yeah, so my last day was
No, it was a Friday. I could actually look it up. Nah, I'm not gonna look it up.
Yeah, you were with Phil.
I was with Phil and Jack, and we're just like, they canceled the NBA. And you just think about how much of a money generator that is. So like something really bad was happening if they got rid of something that generates that much revenue, you know?
Millions or billions, probably. I don't fucking know, but
a big number. So
a big fucking number. Lots of advertisements.
So Phil and Jack are smoking weed. Oh wow, thank you. Wow, people keep giving me money. Thanks, dudes.
Thanks, dudes.
So Phil and Jack are like smoking weed at the place that we're staying at after we played a gig with Guttermouth at a winery, and then the next day they closed all wineries. So it was on a Friday. I have to look it up. Let me look at the calendar.
Yeah. No, that sounds about right. Because I think my last day was a Saturday. It was the day after.
And I went to a fucking Walmart that day, and just witnessed. I went from like being on tour to witnessing the pandemonium of everyone fucking grabbing all the water, everyone grabbing all the toilet paper. Let's see where we're at. And I remember calling my brother and being like, dude, like, I'm leaving the West Coast and I'm coming there. And if my girlfriend doesn't come with me, that's fine. I want her to be safe. She's gonna stay. I was just gonna fucking skip. And if I thought Phil's flight would get canceled. I remember having a conversation. Phil and I are walking around the Venice area the day we got back after we dropped Jack off. It was the 14th. Saturday.
Yeah.
It was Saturday, the 14th of March. And so we're walking around, and I remember like being like, Phil, I'm going to make a run for it. If they don't let you on your plane, because he had a plane ticket for early that morning, the 15th. And I'm like, if they don't let you on your plane, are you coming with me? Are you going to get in my van? Are we going to fucking drive across the country so we can get where there's fresh water before everything goes to hell? No, I seriously, like, I was hyper convinced that LA is, super popular. LA County, there's like 12 million people. And if people are buying up all the water and all the toilet paper and there's no natural resources, it's a fucking desert, right? So my immediate thought is go where the fresh water is, go back home. And so I tried for like a day to convince Allie. I'm like, are you coming with me or not? Because I'm leaving no matter what. And Phil got on his plane, and I was like, Allie, let's fucking go. Like, let's get in the van. Let's get the fuck out of here. We'll come back when this shit dies down. And she ended up convincing me to stay. And we can get water. We can get toilet paper.
As it turns out, yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, it was fucking scary, man. I definitely I fucking stocked all the fucking resources up and got my fucking got my water and my massive amounts of canned food and dried food, and
I have so much oatmeal
ammo and
I have so much oatmeal and instant coffee left from when I stocked up that original Walmart run. I've got a whole big silo of oatmeal. And I've got like this many packs of Folgers instant coffee. I probably got like 70 packets. But okay, so
I've still got my mashed potatoes. I got a deal on that mashed potatoes. Those little they look like ration packs, but they're mashed potatoes. You just put hot water in them.
Oh yeah.
I got a lot of those.
Kind of like instant oatmeal, like the instant oatmeal packets.
Yep.
But okay, so the
Bobbin special.
The Bobbin special. So we're in quarantine for like what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and it just is what it is. We're in quarantine. Everyone's complaining. It's social distancing, blah blah blah. But then, when did George Floyd happen? Do you remember?
That was it the 26th
of April?
Of April.
Okay, so it's just like it was about 5 weeks after the fucking lockdown.
Yeah.
And okay,
I want to say it was the 26th or the 25th. It was that week.
Now explain to me, because, and this is something like, this is, let me see how I got 34% battery on my computer left. Okay, so, but
oh shit, dude.
Explain to me what happened in Detroit when that happened, because like I pretty much watched what was happening around the world just on the fucking internet.
Yeah.
But I want to, like, because You're very involved in the activist community in Detroit. Like you're marching pretty much every day, right?
Yeah, pretty much every day. I'm trying to give myself days off for health.
Self-care.
Yeah. Self-care is a revolutionary act. But I sometimes it's more than once a day. So yeah, it's been busy. We've been very busy. So basically what had happened was when it became like apparent that like there was all these solidarity marches happening, and Minneapolis was burning their precinct down and all this shit. Like there was just a lot of solidarity marches planned, and that's pretty much how it started out. There was a number of organizations that put together a rally that was going to be a march after the rally. They had a bunch of speakers and stuff. A lot of local activists spoke, local activists and a few politicians. We gathered at the precinct, the main precinct, the headquarters of Detroit Police Department. It was peaceful. Everybody was social distancing. There was, I don't know how many people, but it was well over 2,000.
Oh, wow.
It was a couple thousand people. There's a weird psychology thing about overestimating crowd numbers, but it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. I'm pretty sure it was in the thousands of people. We filled a very large area of people, and it was pretty packed in, but everybody was wearing masks. And I remember being really freaked out, like walking up, because it was the first time I was like really around more than like a couple people, like in a line at a store in more than a month.
Right.
And I kind of like worked my way up, and I had my sign and all this shit, taking pictures, and I remember like looking around and being like, every literal person has a mask. There was medics already like giving out hand sanitizer and shit. So it went really smooth, right? It looked like just a regular old like rally, you know, a political rally that I've been to a million times. So when we began to go out onto Michigan Avenue and begin the march after the speeches were done, Detroit Police Department drove 3 cars through the crowd immediately.
That first night?
And that was the very first night. Within 10 minutes of the rally leaving the parking lot area and going onto Michigan Avenue to take over the road and to conduct a peaceful march. They drove through the crowd, pepper spraying people out like the window of the cop car immediately. So this like that didn't go over very well. Somebody jumped on the top of the cop car. They got pulled over and arrested, and then de-arrested, and then arrested again. There was a fight that broke out between protesters and cops. The cops were kind of expelled out of the crowd off to the side because they were getting pushed around, and then people started to destroy the cop car that had driven through the crowd. So this is like 45 minutes in. It was immediate that they started like basically fucking with the crowd. So the plan had been, the chief of police in Detroit, James Craig, he had planned to lead the march as an act of solidarity. He's a piece of fucking shit. Nobody was going to have it anyways. But after this stunt, when he got in front of the crowd, people started chasing him down Michigan Avenue. And it turned into a very tense situation really, really quickly. And then after there was like more exchanges with the police, another cop car was like had all its windows smashed out and shit. They kind of left us alone for the rest of the day. We marched for 6 hours, I think. It was the longest march I've ever done. It went all over downtown and midtown, up and down into Woodbridge, into Southwest. Like it was,
oh wow,
it was huge. And I got these massive fucking blisters on my feet from walking around in my stupid fucking Chucks all day because I didn't put boots on because I thought I was going to like speeches. right? So I'm like hobbling back to my car at 10 p.m. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. We're back downtown. The march is like passing where I parked. So I went and got in my car, and as I was like pulling up to my house, I start getting calls from people like, "Are you okay? Are you downtown?" And I'm like, "I'm fine. I left. My feet were bugging me, and I had to get home." And they were like, "Good, okay." So I get home and I check the live stream, and all like half my friends are still downtown, and they're getting tear gassed and chased through the streets. So they pulled out all these riot cops and just like dumped them through the streets. And they weren't pushing people in any particular direction. They were just like fucking anybody up they could catch. And I watched a whole bunch of people get arrested and then just set free. So what they were doing is what we figured out through, we had a people's tribunal later, after about a week and a half. But we figured out basically through eyewitness accounts that they were detaining people to figure out whether they were from the city or not. And then if they were from the city, they were setting them free after, kicking them around a little bit. And if they weren't from the city, they were arresting them. So that very first night, they had prepared the whole outsider agitator narrative. And they were arresting people on the basis of creating the arrest narrative that everybody downtown was from outside the city, which is not remotely true. It was very much a Detroit march. I remember remarking to myself that there was a lot of Detroit shit happening all day, like people fucking ghost riding and like listening to Blade Icewood like on fucking 10, like in the march. Yeah. And like it was a fucking Detroit march, right? And this whole like outside agitator thing they invented it from day one. And it's been like, and that they've been brutalizing us every like 5-6 days ever since. Pretty much. It's remained the thing that's really baffling me about people like talking about like rioting in Detroit is there's been like zero property damage whatsoever. There's been no riots. There's been no arsons. There's been like, it's been 100% a we're defending ourselves against police brutality, but it's been a passive resistance movement through and through.
What was weird is the first night of the mass protest here in Long Beach is they set the curfew for 8 p.m. and then there was like thousands of people downtown Long Beach, and then they like sent out a mass text to everyone and they changed it. They pushed it back 2 hours. So they're like, "Oh, curfew's 6 now." And meanwhile, there's like a fuckload of people, and then
it's like 5:55, right?
Yeah, and then that's when we got the text. We got the 6 p.m. It's now 6 p.m. curfew, like 5 minutes before 6. And then what ended up happening is they control the narrative. When people started looting and breaking shit, they just let it happen. There's actual footage in Long Beach of people like they were like climbing over walls and stealing a bunch of shit, and there's cops just sitting there just like watching it. And meanwhile, the people who were just peacefully protesting, like they got fucking beat up, tear gassed, and then after that it was just there was fucking a lot. There was a lot of looting and shit. Melrose in Hollywood got really fucked up. They burned a lot of storefronts and stuff. But when Norwood was talking about all of it, it makes sense that the public would react like that.
Yeah, I totally agree that it makes sense. I think Detroit just kind of has a unique history.
Yeah.
Of like radical action and the riots, the rebellion in the '67 rebellion seems like it was a long time ago, but like I think culturally here it's still extremely relevant to like how the activist circles in the city conduct themselves.
Yeah.
So there's always kind of a priority on de-escalating any kind of like property damage because this place we can't take anymore. You know what I mean? I think it's been interesting to see the differences between a lot of the different movements in different cities, between like what happened in LA versus what happened in Detroit, or what happened in like Louisville and Nashville.
What's weird is
very different.
Any of the property damage that occurred in like LA or Long Beach, it was like one day. Like,
yeah.
And as far as my knowledge is concerned, like I don't know what's going on in LA as far as if there's a continuing protest, and because I don't hear about it, I don't see anything about it. So like as far as I'm concerned, I mean I'm in a little bunker and all I have is the internet, but there's still a strong presence in Long Beach, and they're doing like at least like 1 or 2 marches a week in Long Beach, but it's very peaceful.
Well,
I went to one of them. There was a band playing. It was a lot of young kids, but a lot of people weren't wearing masks.
Young.
A lot of people weren't wearing masks. That's the one thing that kind of
really?
Yeah, that's the one thing that kind of freaked me out. I'm surrounded by 2,000 kids on skateboards, and I'm like just the old guy with a mask on. I'm just like, fuck, these motherfuckers are fearless. So
yeah,
but it seems to me like everything I've seen from the Detroit Will Breathe and everything I've seen like on the internet from all my friends that are marching like daily, it seems very peaceful, and it seems like everyone's masked up, and it seems like you're all doing the right things. Yet, I still see memes on the internet. Like people are thoroughly convinced that are outside of all of this shit, that don't have friends that are doing any of it. They're thoroughly convinced that y'all are not protesting, you're rioting. And what do you think about that? Because that's just not true. If everyone was rioting every single day, then the city would be burnt to the ground. You know, there was in LA and Long Beach,
yeah.
It happened the property damage happened one night simultaneously. A lot of shit got fucked up, but after that,
I mean, that's what a riot is. A riot, like, you don't plan a riot.
Yeah.
Like, a riot just happens, and then usually it's done, or it keeps fucking going. But It's not like it's a flashpoint event, right? It's not something like I don't think people plan riots. I don't know. I've seen a lot of riots happen and develop, and it's never a planned thing. It's usually some kind of escalation on the part of either the police or some kind of agent provocateur, honestly. And then people in the community who have like a lot of righteous anger and well-placed rage go out and fucking act on that shit. So, but that's literally not what's happening in Detroit on any level. There's been absolutely no rioting. So I think my take on it is because I've witnessed just an enormous amount of lying coming from the local media. From the Free Press, from Channel 2, Fox News, from almost every single local media outlet. They're just parroting whatever the chief says. And he's literally just making things up as he goes. And constantly being disproven. And then when he's disproven, that never reaches the media. So for a good example, when the cops ran over a bunch of people, including myself, this was on we had an Indigenous and like Black and Brown Alliance Day, so it was a really beautiful day. We took over 2 parks and had
I saw
a bunch
the footage of that.
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful day. Very, very peaceful. We had like one altercation with the cops when we a few activists put like a billboard sign up over a Detroit Police Department billboard. But it's all passive action. So we were walking back, and we were within like 3 or 4 blocks of where all of our cars were parked and where the march was going to end. And that's when they literally staged their cars on either side of the road, waited for people to pass, and then drove through the crowd like at a pretty good fucking clip.
Yeah, I saw that. That was the clip that was all over the internet, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like, I think, one of the first times that we really broke into the national narrative. And it was fucked to watch. Like, I thought people were dead. I thought people were dead for sure. I thought I was witnessing somebody's murder for sure. It was really terrifying. I thought I was gonna I thought I was gonna get hit. I was getting hit, but I thought I was gonna get like sucked under the wheels for a second. And my buddy Matt grabbed me by the collar and pulled me out of the way of the cop car. It was fucking harrowing, and their narrative was a complete fabrication. That they said that people were threatening the officers and like breaking in the windows to steal the guns. Nobody broke any windows. Like, even when they attacked people and drove through the crowd, like, no windows were broken. There's clear video of both cop cars exiting the scene with all their windows intact.
Yeah.
So they're just like 100% lying on shit, like just willfully, just saying like whatever the fuck they want. And people who are already emotionally invested in deciding that, you know, black people asking for civil rights is suspicious, they're going to believe all that shit immediately, especially since it's coming from a black man named James Craig himself. He's putting this narrative together, and they're like, well, look, he's not with them. He's not with these like terrorists and Black Lives Matter or whatever fucking crazy bullshit these people think. So they buy the narrative without any questioning whatsoever. And they always get ahead of it because we're recovering either physically from injuries because some of us were in the hospital, or we're recovering because we've been arrested and detained in jail or something. So during that time, they release a statement, they release a narrative, and that creates what the public perception is from the outside. Now, in the city, we're developing an enormous amount of support in all the neighborhoods. We get a lot of support from the people on the ground. So it's really interesting to hear like kind of the hate come in from like people that I'll never fucking see in my life, when I know like wherever I go in the city, like we've done some good work for a half dozen neighborhoods already. You know, giving voice to their residents, giving voice to their elders, and to the narratives that are being suppressed by the media here. So it's media. It's really, I blame the media's complicity with the police department. They don't question anything they say.
So how do you deal being a part of this, like on the front lines, and knowing what your intentions are and knowing what's actually going on, and then seeing it flipped and the narrative given to the public, and they're actually buying it? Like how that has to fucking sting a little.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, because the people who are sharing these memes and shit, like I saw a meme today that said why don't these looters and rioters just join the police force and become the change they want to see? I saw that today.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, first of all, like the rioting and looting only happened one fucking night. It's not happening anymore. The people,
you know what we've been doing for 57 days?
The people in Portland,
flyering neighborhoods.
Yeah,
for 57 days.
Are people still rioting and looting in Portland and in Minneapolis? No, they're just fucking continuing to try to get their message to people, and the narrative to all the fucking plebs is just, yeah, the rioters and looters, they should just join the police force and be the change they want to see. It's like that. What? And
yeah, and it's absurd.
And there's people on my fucking friends list that are sharing this shit, and it's so weird to be, I don't know, to have 5,000 friends on Facebook and to be friends with people like yourself or Phil and Savannah, people who are in the streets and a part of this movement. There are people out here in Long Beach very vocally want police reform, defund the police. And then on the other hand, you have all these people that are just like regurgitating this rhetoric that just paints all of these wonderful people that I know. They're rioters and they're looters and they're fucking, they're terrorists. And it's like, well, all they're asking for, a woman in Louisville gets fucking killed by the police for a no-knock raid. There's, you know, they're not even looking for the right fucking person, and those cops aren't even arrested, and you're a terrorist if you think that justice needs to be done. Like what the actual fuck? And
it's that like it's fascism, man. It's fucking fascism. I know the term is like overused and it's kind of played out, but it's really, that's what it is. It's because you're taking something that is and you're flipping it over. So you're always like, if you're always going to take exactly what's happening and then say exactly the opposite, that's fascist messaging. That's a strategy. It's a psychological strategy to make sure that people never even question for a minute that maybe they're wrong about a little bit of this. That it sets like an entrenched thought pattern where anything that comes from this camp of people is automatically like ignored because it's coming from terrorists, or in Detroit because we've been completely peaceful and haven't burned anything down at all, it's outside agitators. So the 2 times that I was arrested, they asked me 5 or 6 times where I lived because they didn't like that I lived in Detroit. They wanted me to be from somewhere else, and they're specifically still 50, 60 days in, they're still trying to make sure that they arrest people who are from outside the city.
Whoa.
And then because that's their whole narrative, is that these people don't really represent the city of Detroit. Like, the city of Detroit loves their police department. Like, you know, that's their whole like MO is.
But that's bullshit.
It's 100% bullshit, because we have like mad fucking support in the streets everywhere we go. We have like whole families coming out and dancing in the streets while we fucking chant and shit. So it's like a party. It's like a party fucking atmosphere every day that's very serious about getting, you know, this message out of defunding and abolishing the police and you know, striving for real justice, for real racial justice, whether that means abolition or whether it means reform. You know, that really all depends on how willing our government officials are to acknowledge our demands. So it's all very strategic, and it's all, you know, it's all progressing pretty well. I feel good about things from a day-to-day basis. You know, we're getting a lot of things done. So I think that's kind of like what I really focus on, because I know there's going to be a majority of people who just buy whatever the media narrative is. So like, I know that regardless of the media narrative, and actually the media narrative is an indicator of how well we're actually functioning as a movement, because the more they feel they need to acknowledge and repress our messaging, that indicates that our messaging is getting through enough that it's becoming important for them to like toe the opposite line. So I look at the police violence kind of the same way. Is when we win a policy decision, if we win something in the courts, like, it's almost guaranteed the next day we're gonna see a bunch of arrests. We're gonna see some tear gas, or we're gonna see some riot police beat people with batons. So it's almost become predictable to the point where I know that if we win a policy decision, I bring my fucking gas mask the next day.
Wow.
Because it just has become that predictable. And it's not always predictable. I've definitely been wrong a couple times. Right. And really fucking wish that I had my fucking shit on me, but
damn. So yeah. So when you got explain, you got locked up recently.
I got twice this week.
Twice? Okay, in the last 7 days?
In the last 7 days, I was detained twice. Yeah.
Okay.
This was about okay, so they're trying to open our schools in Detroit, which is fucking ridiculous.
Isn't it summer?
It's summer school. Well, they're trying to open for summer schools, which is so stupid because summer school is taught online to begin with. It's an in-person teacher managing an online course. That's what summer school in Detroit Public School Community District is. that this is like I'm getting this word from teachers in the district.
Okay.
So it's a big show that the mayor Duggan and the superintendent Beatty are basically putting on so that they can prove that like we can make the schools safe so we can be open in the fall. And yeah, they want to open the schools in the fall, like regardless of where COVID is at. And so basically, Detroit Will Breathe has been participating, but these actions have been put on by an organization called BAM, or by any means necessary. They're more focused on like immigrant rights, and like policy issues like this kind of stuff. So we've been blockading the bus stations for 2 weeks. So the first week was really interesting because we succeeded in blockading the buses like twice, and there were only arrests on one day, and they let it slide for the rest of the week. And then last week they arrested people every single day. So it was really kind of a predictable arrest on Thursday. We were committed to like a mass action where people were blockading the roads with their cars. And then we had a line of people in front of the cars to keep the tow trucks out. So the tow trucks were coming to remove the cars so the buses could leave, and we were blocking the tow trucks. So they were rounding us all up, doing a mass arrest to basically clear the way for the tow trucks so the buses could get out. Really interesting thing, the buses have not picked up any kids for 2 weeks.
So what are they doing?
They run their route so they can get their check. They're running their route, not picking up anybody, and then they go straight to the school, and then they go right back to the bus yard. So like we've been waiting around for them to come back, and sometimes it's like 15 minutes. So like a bus route takes way more than 15 fucking minutes. So it's literally all a show so that they can force it open in the fall.
Huh.
Thursday we were like 20 of us were arrested, and the fucking ironic thing that I'm gonna laugh about for the rest of my fucking life is they put us on a fucking bus. They put us on a school bus.
I saw that.
They put us. Yeah, you saw my live.
You went live.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what? I'm like, what is this? So you were detained when you went live.
I was in zip ties.
Oh.
Yeah, but they left my phone in my pocket.
So
yeah,
and so everyone you were detained with, they were all like, you guys were singing, chanting, like on the bus.
That was the like really interesting thing. It was all the Detroit Will Breathe leadership who got detained.
Wow.
So anybody who's leadership in Detroit Will Breathe or affiliated, like I'm just kind of like I'm not really a member of any of these organizations. I'm kind of an unaffiliated activist, but yeah, we were all Detroit Will Breathe people were targeted one by one. They went down the line and pointed them out. This one and this one next, and took 20 of us in. So we had a lot of fun. We were chanting on the bus. We were singing, the wheels on the bus are killing kids, and all these kind of things. We were just fucking with the pigs. We were roasting the police the whole time. Like when you get arrested with like 20 friends that you've been like, out on the streets with for 50 days, 60 days straight,
yeah.
Like it's a very different vibe than Tuesday when I was arrested with 2 other people and we were kept separate.
Okay.
So that arrest was like much more severe. They actually booked us into the prison, which was fucked because they had my zip ties on so hard that I still can't feel like the backs of my hands, like up and down my thumbs and up and down the backs of my index fingers it's still numb. And they put like a face shield on me that had fucking maggots on it.
Holy shit.
So this is, yeah. That's like the sanitary conditions inside of Detroit Correctional Facility,
Yeah.
Correctional Center.
Didn't you post something recently that said people in that facility tested positive for COVID?
Yes. It's like out of 1,700 tested, there was 1,000 positive cases or something like that.
Holy shit!
It's like most people have it.
And you just were in there?
Yeah. I wasn't booked into the cells. I was in the waiting room, but like I still had this fucking maggoty face mask they put on me. So that was 2 days ago. So I'm getting tested this week, as is everybody else who was booked.
And most of the interrogation or the questions they asked, they wanted you to say you were from outside of the city. Like, how did that go down?
That's all it was. That was the only question they asked.
That's it?
That's it. They didn't want to know anything else. They know what we're out there for.
Yeah, they probably know you on a first name basis at this point.
Yeah, some of them do.
Jeez.
Yeah, one of the sergeant that arrested me, he knows me. That's why he put my zip ties on so tight. He doesn't like me very much.
So if you didn't, because you live in Detroit, you live on the west side.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I live off 6 Mile, so I'm in the city.
Now, if you didn't own a home in Detroit, like what would they have done to you differently? Like how would that have gone down differently if you were someone from the suburbs?
They probably would have hit me with extra charges, I think, to like fit their narrative, to like, because more charges means like they can boost the stats, right? That's my assumption. Because I just have 2 disorderly conduct charges, which will probably be dismissed. I've had more disorderly conduct charges dismissed than I've ever had to actually go to court for. So that's kind of like that's kind of what they do, right? It's more about just detaining them. So it's the disorderly conduct charge is just a mechanism to like kidnap you basically and keep you off the streets for a couple hours while they, because once you lose the numbers, then they can, overcome whatever action that you're trying to undertake, right? So once they arrested 20 of us, they could get the tow trucks through because it wasn't worth getting the rest of everyone arrested. So it's kind of like we kind of play we play it strategically, if there's a mass arrest, a mass arrest situation, we try to hold the line as long as it makes sense. And then once it kind of becomes like obvious that, we've lost the numbers, then we disperse and comply. So now that was Thursday. So Thursday was like a very organized direct action. Like we were like, fuck yeah. Like we're here to like, we're probably all going to get arrested. Like, the bail fund set up, Phil did a fucking fundraiser for the bail fund. So that was like a very planned arrest.
Okay. The show he did at his house, the fundraiser he did at his house, that was for a bail fund.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
he raised
a lot of money.
He raised like $2,700 for the fucking bail. Yeah, in an afternoon. Yeah, it was great.
So
chill out.
So it's a little off subject, but still on subject. Because I was watching that footage of Phil and you and I playing with HR, and I was thinking to myself about all the people, out here, and all the people just like they consider themselves to be punks. Like I'm a punk rocker, but I'm like looking at these 2 dudes that I play music with are literally like in the fucking street every day, fighting for fighting the message.
Fighting cops some days.
Yeah, but it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling because I've had I've had so many people in and out of my band, and like this old drummer of my band is a fucking really like he was our drummer back in like 2004, like maybe a year, but on Facebook he's a fucking military guy, avid Trump supporter, and it's nice because when I think of when we're backing up HR like, not only are we trying to do justice to the music, but I feel like our own personal politics and what we believe to be right and wrong, it's like is in line with his thoughts as well. It's just good to know, like, that you guys are my friends, but also I consider yourself morally sound human beings and good people that want to see a better world. It's heartwarming, and it's weird for me.
Well, it's so important I think it's vital for art, man. I think art without social responsibility is kind of like, I'm like, what the fuck is the point of that? It's just like a hobby at that point. You know what I mean? That's how I really look at it. Like, you can make a lot of money, but it's still a hobby if you're not fucking doing something with it. You know what I mean? If you're not saying something, like, it's fun to like fuck around. And I think bringing joy and bringing just like comedy into the world is like a revolutionary act in its own self. You know what I mean? But it's like, we're all on that level where, you know, we're making art from that conscious point of view where we're thinking about what are the consequences of this art? Like, what is the consequences of the messaging that I'm putting forward? Like, I know you put a ton of thought into that. And
sometimes no thought at all.
Yeah, sometimes maybe sometimes no thought at all.
Baby Goober's Gabby
it comes out the best that way.
Baby Goober's Gabby is not a lot of thought, but that's a Ron lyric. But either way, yeah, it's weird. It's weird to be so silly and ridiculous. Like, especially, I just put out some video today where I'm talking about, like, I'm going to hell with Joe Rogan and how I ate meat and, you know, some stupid, or like, you know, doing weird ska punk covers with Yablansky and whatnot.
That was dope.
Yeah, I think it is dope. But then it's like we're talking right now about you know, inequality, addiction, privilege, fucking mental problems, you know, drugs, and, you know, false narratives and stuff like that. It's like you can be an artist that does both. You can be silly and you can be serious at the same time. But back to the whole HR thing. It's just I don't know. It's heartwarming. It's heartwarming to see you and Phil be so active and passionate. You know how good I felt though. Like, I saw when you shared that video, I was on the prison bus. I was on the fucking school bus in zip ties, and I get a little ding. I get a little notification. Neil shared a video, and I'm like, ooh, what's this gonna be? And it's fucking you and me and Phil and HR, and it's fucking song Shame in the Game. I'm like, bro, I turned it all the way up and set it up on the seat. You know, I did one of these. I set it up on the seat, and then and we all listened to it. We all sitting there listening to HR on the prison bus, getting arrested for defending the lives of a majority black district in Detroit that's being experimented upon by you know, white supremacist regime. It's like it's a circle. It just seemed like too complete, you know? Yeah.
Especially since I saw Phil the next day at the march because he was drumming, you know?
Yeah.
He was there today. He was marching today and yesterday with us. You know, he's out with us all the time, man.
Yeah.
And when he's working or stuck doing something else, he's always sharing all the flyers, and, you know, he's doing all the work, man.
Oh yeah.
And just like knowing that, like, I can hang out with just on the fact. One thing that I love is that I get to hang out with Phil on a regular basis now, even if it's just for a few minutes between like breaks in the marches or something, you know, because we're on that same page. We're on that, like, you know, we know he knows how important this is. He knows how important this fight is, and having somebody as a friend who's like with you like that is absolutely irreplaceable.
Yeah, because it goes so much further than just like, yeah, we like to play instruments together. It's like I see dudes in my band are like fighting for justice in the streets together. It's like, and me being so far away from everything, and essentially on this like desert island out here, it's just, I'm really proud of you guys, man. Like extremely.
Well, we love you, man. We love you a lot.
Yeah,
and I see what you're doing out here too. You know, you're through creating your content, you're fucking, you know, furthering these narratives and having these like, you know, these real discussions with people on a regular basis. Like that's the work, right? That's the work that we're doing in the streets. You know, we're trying to have these real conversations in the streets with people in the neighborhood. That's what you're doing. So I think that ethos, that kind of like moral guide of just like trying to be a better person and you know, represent your humanity, like always comes through.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I'm just a fucking dude.
Even when you're fucking around and having just like, and singing about Joe Rogan and yeah.
Singing about fucking, oh my God, Becky, look at his dick. It's like so fucking big. I'm like, wow, wow, wow. But I mean, if I can make someone laugh, then I just like acting like a jackass sometimes. But also with this podcast,
I need it.
Yeah. But with the podcast and having these conversations, it, like, ultimately, I'm just a dude, but I have a little bit of a voice and I have a little bit of an audience. And if I could fucking like twist that narrative a little bit and just bring some people on here who are marginalized, people of color, who have a story to tell, and if people are willing and open-minded enough to listen to someone else's point of view, maybe they'll think a little bit differently. Like I had this dude, this like a pretty right-wing dude that looked into Breonna Taylor and started messaging me on Instagram about it. He's like, holy shit, this is totally fucked. And he's like a Second Amendment guy, a Trump supporter guy. He's like, this is terrible. This is not right. And it felt good because, you know, I don't know, I have a predominantly white audience and a lot of them are not necessarily privy to any of this knowledge, and they believe that media narrative that like everyone in the streets are just rioters. But it's like, have someone like someone eloquent enough and intelligent enough to explain what's actually going on this, like, you know, it's just a tiny little podcast, but fuck it. It's like I'm trying my best to, I don't know, just amplify voices of people who actually know what the fuck is actually going on.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's a huge deal, dude. I mean, that's been the whole foundation of really my involvement in Detroit Will Breathe and our movement is like, you know, I'm vocal, like, especially on the internet. I think my internet presence is like, I really talk about shit a lot.
Oh yeah.
A little bit. But like in the streets, like I'm just running sound. I'm setting up speakers. I'm making sure like every time, you know, one of our elders comes to speak about the struggle and give us lessons from the 60s, that everybody can hear every fucking word. Like that's, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's really, I think that's a huge part of just the global nature of this moment, is that we're all kind of recognizing, okay, we need to amplify certain voices immediately. There are people that have to be heard in order for our society to function, and they're not being heard right now. And I think what you're doing is just a reflection of that, totally.
Yeah, well, because I constantly ask myself, like, as far as my being an ally, like, can I be doing more? You know, should I be in the streets? And I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's a source of conflict for me because I recognize my privilege and I know how lucky I am, and I know how unfair the fucking world is. And so I'm doing the best that I can. I feel I'm I'm trying, you know.
That's more than like most people ever fucking work out, though. You know what I mean? like just knowing, like having that in your head and going, okay, asking that question is like, that's what happens every day. That's like the journey, right? Like, yeah, no matter how much you're doing or how much you think you're doing or how great of an ally you think you are, like that's always the question.
Yeah.
Right. Is like, what am I really doing and how is this actually helping? You know, how is this actually helping to provide a platform for marginalized voices or to, you know, check that narrative, check the false narrative in your situation, in your culture, in your circles. You know, I think that's it. And it's sometimes it feels like empty because it's like the awareness campaign, right? Like we're all kind of fucking sick of that sometimes. Of like, you know, we just have to know more because like at a certain point, like you have to do more, right? But without people who are like putting the information out, they're like, that information is what radicalizes people. That information, like with your you know, kind of white right wing friend, the information radicalized them, right? The information about Breonna Taylor is damning. So if you know enough about it, like,
Yeah.
and you really consider it and think through it, it's fucked. It's fucked any way you look at it. So like there was a young man who was murdered by the police 3 blocks from my house 2 weeks ago, named Hakeem Littleton. And the situation between the police and him was really complicated because he had a gun and he shot at the police.
Oof.
So this created a lot of controversy in within the movement because we decided to unequivocally support his family and to demand like full transparency from the police. You know, despite the evidence that like, yeah, he fucking fired first. He fired a gun at the police. So it becomes a point like where it's like not really so much about optics and narrative anymore. It's really a fucking like a line of morality where you say the purpose of the police can't be to carry out summary or executions. It can't be to respond with deadly force, period. Like it's improper. And when we kind of doubled down on that, we got so much blowback about it. But because we stuck to our guns and we stuck on our principles and we conducted our own independent investigation and demanded some body cam footage, which we got from the chief through that what was called a riot, which was really just people in the neighborhood returning tear gas to the police. They released the footage and we conducted an investigation of the footage, and it clearly shows that the police put a bullet in this kid's head 3 seconds after all the rest of the shots were fired. There is a whole gap in the sequence where he's on the ground and he's fully detained, and a cop walks around another cop and puts his gun to his head and pulls the trigger.
Jesus.
It's a full execution scene.
Yeah.
It's really haunting to watch. And I helped with the audio reconstruction of it, and I watched it like 100 times in a day. And regardless of the situation that led up to that violence, like you can't have, no matter what you look at, like you can't look at a picture of a cop holding a gun to somebody's head who's totally detained and on the ground, who has another officer on him, his gun has been kicked away clearly in the video, who's not a threat, and then you watch somebody like fucking literally execute this person. I don't understand how you can like be faced with those kinds of facts and then still say, well, these people are just rioting for no reason. I don't know. That shit really fucking, that's where I just kind of disconnect. Because if you can watch that and say that was justified, if you can watch it, like if you can watch, if you can read through the full police account of the Breonna Taylor incident and like feel like that was just an accident. You know, if you can look at the stark evidence and buy whatever narrative is being sold to you, see, to me that's like I don't even know how to address that. So I just don't fucking worry about it. I don't worry about people that think that way.
Yeah, because they're just buying that narrative without doing any of the research. They're just like, oh, protesters bad, rioters bad, looting bad, but it's like, dude, no, cops bad. Like,
yeah,
come on, it's all right there, you know, and it's been there. It's been there for 400 fucking years. You talk to someone like Norwood, you know, or someone like Angelo, they fucking live that shit every single fucking day, being afraid for their lives just because of the color of their skin. And that it's true, it exists. It's not just fucking some made up shit so people could steal fucking Nikes.
No, it's that is just the erasure of people's lived experience. Like today, we did a march through the Island View neighborhood, which is like kind of by Eastern Village, like it's kind of lower east side Detroit, right? And we stopped at a couple like elders' houses that have lived in the neighborhood for like 50 plus years. And one of them told a really chilling story about a local boy that she knew growing up, who went into one of the segregated restaurants through the front door, through the white door. And this is a living woman's experience, right? This is somebody who she's not an old, frail woman. She's, you know, she's like Auntie Betty from the block, like she lives on the street for 50 years and the whole neighborhood knows her, right? And she's telling the story that she knew this boy that she used to like hang out with and was friends with, who just didn't know that he couldn't go in the front door. And he walked into a restaurant through the white door, through the front door, and wound up being lynched, wound up being killed by these people who were in the restaurant later that evening, was dismembered, was castrated, was left on the train tracks, and the police ruled it as the train ran him over. So it's like this is someone who came out to like say hi to everybody, like, and I have a story about like how fucked up it is to be a black person in America. And it's like if you are completely unaware of this history, like it kind of makes sense that you would buy into these insane false narratives that the media sells about the black community and about black on black crime and all these other myths, because all crime is racially almost all crime is racially homogenous. It's a fact of geography, right? All these false narratives just play into this erasure of history. And what we're witnessing is that history is going to have to be reckoned with. And if it's not, then it will mean the destruction of this society. I really believe that. It's a do or die situation. We have to recognize and like rectify our common history as a nation. It's just as simple as that. And there's 100 stories. I hear all these stories every week. You know, we're actively defending like 4 families in the city of Detroit of people who have lost somebody in custody in the last 3 years. You know, it's when you really dive into it, it starts to hit close to home. You know, I met Hakeem once. I met his brother and him at Nicky D's one day when I was picking up sandwiches. And I haven't told anybody that because it's not, it's not my narrative. I don't want to make anything about me, but it hit me close to home because I didn't realize anything until I saw his brother speak at the memorial, and I realized, holy fuck, I've met these kids. We shot the shit while I was waiting for fucking sandwiches. Like, eventually it will touch. Eventually this shit touches you. Eventually this shit touches everyone if you're paying fucking attention. And I think that's why I just can't, like, I'll fucking scream at somebody online, and I'll fucking, set them in their place if it's easy and passive for me to, but I don't really fucking worry about these people who buy into these narratives. I'm not gonna change anything that I'm doing in order to like accommodate their fucking ignorance. It's not happening because it's willful. They're making a decision to be ignorant because the facts are in your face. They're obvious. It's 24/7 news cycle.
Yeah, more now than ever.
Bullshit. Yeah. I know. I made it heavy.
No, I need to hear shit like this. It's important. But
yeah, it's been a really fucking heavy couple weeks, and I think that it really became like I was definitely more than personally invested in this for a long time. Based on the shit that I've witnessed and things that happened to me at Standing Rock and shit like that, and like, but having the community like that I live in show up on the block 3 blocks away from my house and then get tear gassed and brutalized on a corner that I pass every single day, that made it really real, which is, my privilege that I'm 30 years old. And even though I've, experienced all kinds of fucked up shit at the hands of police, like, police murder was the line for me. Until that happened, that has not been like any part of my personal experience. And I think it's really just a matter of time. If you're not living in a bubble, you'll know somebody eventually who's a victim of this. It's an epidemic. Just like COVID is, man. It's 1,500 people a year are extrajudicially executed for, without trial, without cause. No other country, no other civilized nation in the world does this shit. So I don't know. It's long overdue. And the change is going to be exceedingly difficult to accomplish, but it has to happen. It's like, there's no other alternative, right? If we lose this fight, we lose civility. We lose having a civil society, because you can't have fucking stormtroopers in every city and pretend that that's a society, that's civilization. It's an open air prison. Portland is an open air prison right now. That shit is fucking crazy what they're doing out there. But it's a block. It's like 3 blocks, right? So they're doing all that shit for a block of the city. Not the rest of the city. The rest of the city's doing just fine. But they're going to apply like insane amounts of unconstitutional force over a block just because people are like, no, this is our block.
Yeah, it's just it's fucking, they're trying to set an example. Trump just wants to be like, bigger, stronger, faster. We're taking care of business. These unlawful terrorists, we'll take care of them. And then, all of his blind followers are just like,
yeah. Well, they're playing the game for us though, because really what it comes down to is every time you like hit somebody with violent repression like this, when they know that they're right, it just makes more people impassioned about it. You go like, oh, my mom went down and then she got gassed. Like, well, now I'm in. Like, it's that they're lighting their own fires, and I think that's kind of that's something that's different about the present moment in history than has been present in like a lot of the other movements that I've been a part of. It's just been like it. No matter what they've done to us, especially in Detroit, like they haven't been quite as repressive as some other cities, but we've certainly had our share of close calls and like near misses and a lot of brutality. I have chemical burns all up and down my arms from throwing, from handling tear gas canisters, I'll just say, in an effort not to incriminate myself too much. And that has just like radicalized everybody. I was talking with one of my buddies that we got arrested together on Thursday with, and we were laughing about like, I had a lot of fun on Thursday. In fact, that's like the most I've laughed in like a long time.
Oh,
and
man.
we're like, that's like kind of fucked up. Like that's a really fucked up level of trauma bonding that we all experienced. And now we're all very close friends all of a sudden. Because we were stuck on a fucking piss-filled bus for 4 hours in the hot sun, waiting for, with zip ties on our arms. So it seems like their game is like, this will make them fucking stop. This will make them like sad about things and feel stupid and feel humiliated. And the reality is I'm just like more pissed off and more ready to do whatever the fuck needs to be done than I was before I got arrested twice this week. So.
Oh
yeah, man.
I'm at 4% battery and the encoding is overloaded.
We're winding down. We're rambling. We're winding down.
Yeah, I gotta cut it. But thanks for this, man, and for anyone that sat through this. Hopefully, they see a perspective that maybe they're not privy to.
Yeah, man. If they sat through all this shit, I'm impressed.
I mean, we're at 2 hours and 50 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, I just like talking to you, buddy. I miss you.
I miss you too, man. But I'm proud of you, and thanks for doing this. And I'm glad you're okay because I get worried.
I'm okay. I gotta take a fucking break this week.
Yeah, take a break.
I'm doing all right.
But yeah, everything's getting all fucky. The encoder's all fucked up, and my computer's about to die. But I love you, man.
All right, dude.
Thank you for doing this, and thanks for all the work that you're putting in. I just, like I said, I'm proud of you guys.
Thanks, man. It means a lot. I love you, man.
I love you too. So
all right.
So yeah, let's call it. I don't know what to say. I got kind of fucking